42%. Chapter 201. Even if I am injured, you are not someone you can mess with. Old guy, if you want to destroy the snake people, you still have to pass this king's test. When the snake man statue's eyes lit up, a cold voice also echoed in the void. Next moment, as a roar sounded, a terrifying silhouette of a sky-swallowing python rose into the sky from the snake-human statue. When the giant claws of the heavenly wolf shattered the protective light curtain and fiercely photographed Tien Serpent City, the phantom of the sky-swallowing python also roared and rushed forward. In an instant, the roar shook the world like a thunderstorm, and Mulin and others spurted out blood in the backlash, but each of their faces showed a look of ecstasy. The Queen.is back. Hiss. Almost as Mulin and the others showed ecstasy on their faces, the storm filled the sky and rolled down like a tsunami. As the void in front of the snake man statue was torn apart like pieces of paper. One has a beautiful face, a cold expression, and a crown on her head. The red inner armor wrapped around the proud giant, and the woman surrounded by 8 colored flames walked out of the crack in the void at this moment. Well, there should be a picture of Queen Medusa here. Let's briefly talk about my story with my classmate Medusa. At the same time as this figure appeared, the terrifying holy power swept across the world in an instant. The energy storm sweeping across the sky seemed to be frozen in the void by an invisible force. As this figure raised his hand, the energy storm rolled back in an instant and swept directly towards the Sirius Emperor. This made the Sirius Emperor's pupils shrink sharply, and he yelled in disbelief. Are you the Medusa of this generation of snake people? How can this be? Your cultivation level is actually higher than this emperor's. In words of horror and disbelief, the Sirius Emperor also exploded in cultivation, and the power of Sirius immediately swept across the void, annihilating the energy storm. The horrific aftermath. This caused many Sirius soldiers to retreat, and some even spurted out a mouthful of blood. Fortunately, this was just the aftermath. If they were hit by this wave of energy storm, they would probably suffer heavy casualties. The Sirius Emperor was still staring at Queen Medusa with trembling eyes. That is Kian, who came from Luyun City, entering the 5th level of the saint. This kind of heart-stopping cultivation fluctuation was far more powerful than him. Isn't Queen Medusa of the snake tribe's generation only in the 9th level of heaven and human realm? Why is he now in the 5th level of sainthood? Kian didn't speak when she heard this, she was just suppressing the backlash in her body. This time in retreat, she had originally refined the purple-scaled demonic dragon flame, but at the last moment, she was preparing to enter the 6th level of the saint. Unexpectedly, at the critical moment, he received a message from the snake tribe. This made her confused, and she immediately interrupted the breakthrough, which also caused her to suffer backlash. Later, in order to reach the snake people earlier, she even used secret techniques to overload the journey, which once again aggravated the backlash and injuries to her meridians. Even just now, before anyone arrived at Tien Serpent City, sensing the divine ability of the Sirius Emperor to bombard the Serpent City, she could only use the secret method of blood to attract the Snake Man statue from the air. Although she saved the Tien Snake City group at a critical moment, her backlash and meridian injuries worsened again. So, if the backlash and injuries cannot be suppressed, the next situation will be tragic. No, although this cultivation fluctuation is very powerful, it seems very superficial and chaotic. You were hit hard. When Kian mobilized her cultivation to suppress the injuries and backlash, Emperor Tianlong also noticed that something was wrong with Kian. His face became a little ecstatic. Ha ha ha, if you were at your peak, I might have no choice but to retreat. But now that you are injured, you can't blame me. Almost as soon as he finished the last 2 sentences, a cold light flashed in the eyes of the Sirius Emperor, and the next moment he disappeared from the chariot. Immediately afterwards, it's like teleporting in space. The space to the left of Kian exploded at this moment, and the Sirius Emperor struck Kian with an unrivaled punch. This scene, Kian's pupils shrank slightly, and murderous intent rose into the sky at this moment, spreading out as the 8 colored flames raged. Kian raised her hand to block the Heavenly Wolf Emperor's punch, and her right leg swept out in an instant, hitting the Heavenly Wolf Emperor's body immediately. The space with a radius of hundreds of feet exploded and collapsed instantly, and the devastating storm swept away again. Even though Emperor Tianlong used his elbow to block Kian's whip kick, his whole body was still blown away like a cannonball. Passed along the way, the soldiers of the Sirius Legion who were hit and affected, as well as the Sirius beneath them, were blasted into blood mist. Damn it, you actually still have such strength. Being pushed back by Kian's move, Emperor Tianlong stabilized the surging energy and blood in his body, and his whole body burst into dazzling silver light. A terrifying phantom of Sirius appeared behind him in an instant. But your attack did not severely damage me, which means that you are now at the end of your strength. As the words echoed, the Sirius Emperor grabbed the void with his right hand, and the space suddenly twisted and cracked. A crescent moon knife engraved with wolf patterns also appeared in his hand at this moment. Sirius Moon Arc Sword. This is the natal saint weapon that he personally built and cultivated. It is only one step away from being promoted to saint level middle grade. He doesn't believe it. After he sacrificed his holy weapon, he was still unable to do anything to a wounded 5th level saintly warrior. Blood Moon Wolf Slash. As the Sirius Emperor shouted in his heart, the Sirius shadow behind him roared, and a round of bloody residual blood also appeared in the sky. When murderous intent and evil aura filled the void, Emperor Tianlong raised his hand and slashed down at the colorful smoke. The blood moon swooped out with the phantom of the Sirius, and in an instant it turned into a 1,000-foot sword light and slashed down violently. Even if this king is injured, you can't provoke him. Seeing the Sirius Emperor unleash such a terrifying move, there was no panic in Kyan's eyes, but an even more piercing chill flowed in her eyes. As the words echoed, the terrifying power of cultivation swept away like a storm, the red flame wind god wings stretched out from her back, and the 2 sky-swallowing pythons roared into the sky. They all collapsed in the void. When the terrifying 8-color flame swept through the void, Kyan grabbed it with her right hand, and the red flame black sword appeared. A sword gleam that was far more terrifying than the Blood Moon Wolf's sword radiated across the world like a startling giant at this moment. Then, with unrivaled momentum, he slashed towards the Emperor of Heaven and Earth. Boom. Below, the pupils of Mulin and others shrank sharply, and when the Heavenly Serpent Formation's protective light curtain lit up again, the 2 divine abilities collided like meteors. The roar was like the roar of the sky, almost shaking within 100 miles. The sky above Tien Serpent City seemed like the end was coming. Everywhere you looked, the void was shattered, and endless storms swept across the sky and the earth. The sword light struck by the Sirius Emperor was exploded by colorful smoke on the spot. The devastating backlash caused blood to spurt out from Emperor Tianlong's mouth, and he looked at Kyan in horror. Impossible. You are obviously injured, why are you still so strong? In the echo of the words. Although the 8-color blazing sword light that Kyan slashed was greatly weakened at this moment, it still slashed towards the Sirius Emperor. This made the hairs on the Sirius Emperor's body stand up, and he condensed a body-protecting essence around his body. Boom. In another roar, the Sirius Emperor was cut open in the chest, and the holy blood immediately fell from the void, and his whole body fell on the chariot palace. The Tianlong chariot was almost scrapped on the spot, and the Wolf King who pulled the chariot let out a mournful cry. This scene, the pupils of many Sirius soldiers almost exploded, and Mulin and others below showed expressions of ecstasy. Certainly, Mo Zan, who was sitting cross-legged on the bloody coffin behind the Sirius Legion, opened his closed eyes at this moment. 42%. Chapter 202 next. Leave it to the young master. Queen, defeated the Sirius Emperor. Looking at the battle situation in the void, Mulin and others looked ecstatic, and they couldn't help but want to cheer. But before they could shout out, a cold voice also echoed. Unexpectedly, the snake tribe in the endless desert would actually give birth to a strong man who entered the saint realm. It's really surprising. After this voice sounded, a holy power more terrifying than the Sirius Emperor swept across the world at this moment. The whole world almost became dark, and Mo Zan's figure disappeared on top of the coffin. Then like a ghost, it appeared in front of hundreds of feet of colorful smoke. Queen Medusa, who broke the shackles of her bloodline, even possesses 3 saint-level treasures. After glancing at Kyan with his glowing green eyes, Mo Zan also showed a look of interest on his face. Is it possible that you have acquired the inheritance from the Eastern Domain's sky-swallowing Python clan? The snake people have been struggling in the endless desert for thousands of years. Except for the strong saint realm at the beginning, the bloodline of the sky-swallowing Python became thin later. There is almost no Medusa queen who can break through the saint realm again by breaking the shackles of her bloodline. But, more than 300 years ago, the bloodline of the previous generation Queen Medusa experienced an atavism. Queen Medusa, whose talent and combat power exceeds that of any generation, is also the snake tribe's most promising candidate to break through the saint realm in so many years. Unfortunately, before the opponent could break through to the saint realm, they were destroyed because of the Sirius Emperor. Unexpectedly, this generation of Queen Medusa actually broke through the shackles of blood, and her talents seemed to be even better than those of the previous generation. As for Mozan's inquiry, Kyan ignored it at this time, still urging her cultivation to crazily suppress the injuries and backlash. But after the fight just now, the injuries to the meridians in her body worsened again, and the power of the animal fire that had not been fully refined was moving randomly in her limbs. This made her face become paler and her aura became more disordered. Alas, after being educated in the room by my mother-in-law for an hour, Medusa came out and asked me to go shopping with her to buy clothes. Before my wallet was empty, my body was emptied first. This elder gives you two choices. The first is, submit to the Hengshan Mo family, let me plant the slave seal and become my woman. Second, let me kill you and turn your corpse into a corpse puppet to enjoy slowly. I'll give you 3 breaths of time to think about it, and you have to think clearly about your answer. Looking at the beautiful figure in front of him, Mozan had a lustful look in his eyes. Although the Queen Medusa in front of her has completely transformed into a human form, it cannot be more exciting to play with like the snake puppet he trained. But at least he has the blood of a python, so it shouldn't be too bad. Damn it, I can't hold it anymore. As soon as Mozan finished speaking, Kai Yan's face showed a flash of blood, and all the injuries and backlash in her body exploded. The cultivation aura became chaotic at this moment, and a mouthful of blood spurted out at this moment. Chance. When Mozan saw what was happening in front of him, a cold light flashed through his eyes. Although he had only taken a breath at this time, he still took action without hesitation. The strong men of Saint Realm fight. Often a key flaw can determine the outcome of a battle. Now Queen Medusa's injury will blow back, if he doesn't seize this opportunity to take action. Then these more than 1,000 years have really been lived on dogs. Boom. Almost as soon as Mozan rushed out, the void in front of Kyan collapsed. Mozan's figure was approaching like a ghost, and an ink-colored giant python condensed between his raised hands. Immediately bombarded the colorful smoke. Kyan's expression also changed when she saw Mozan talking like she was farting and attacking her directly at this moment. Crazily mobilizing the chaotic cultivation within the body, the wings of the red flame wind god instantly crossed and closed, wrapping her whole body inside. Almost at this moment, Mozan's punch also hit the wings of the red flame wind god, and an ear-splitting roar resounded throughout the world at this moment. The space around Kyan exploded into pieces, and his body was blown away by Mozan's punch. Although the punch was blocked by the red flame wind god wings, the terrifying impact and counter-shock force still made Kyan's blood boil. The injuries and backlash in his body could no longer be suppressed at this time. This made Kyan's face turn pale, and blood spurted out of her mouth again. When Mozan saw that the blow did not really hit Kai Yan seriously, a ferocious smile appeared on his lips, and he chased after her like a ghost. Since you are unwilling to surrender, let me turn you into a corpse puppet, and I will slowly craft you when I have time in the future. In the echo of these words, Mozan exploded his cultivation to the extreme. The strange dark green true essence condensed on the right hand, and then like an eagle hunting prey, it instantly grabbed Kyan's chest. Queen. Seeing that scene in the void, Mulin and others' pupils shrank violently, with a look of despair on their faces. Unexpectedly, there was such a terrifying and powerful person behind Emperor Tinlong. The power of such a terrifying saint is only stronger than that of the queen. Now he is taking advantage of the queen's injury to attack. How can the queen withstand such a fierce and decisive attack? How dare you hurt her? Just when Mulin and others looked desperate, Kai Yan's eyes showed madness, and they were planning to injure their meridians to force their cultivation. A cold and furious voice exploded in the void like thunder. Boom. Almost at the same time as the words echoed, the sky above Tien Serpent City suddenly became distorted, and a double-headed magic dragon chariot rushed out. The void in front of Kai Yan exploded at this moment. A corpse puppet, covered with colorful hair and about a foot tall, also rushed out of the broken void. Without any divine ability burst, he raised his hand and punched directly. The claws of Mozan collided with each other. Boom. Accompanied by a deafening roar. Mozan's arm made a crackling sound like fried beans, and the bones and flesh of the entire arm shattered and exploded at this moment. This made Mozan let out a shrill scream, and his figure was blown away like a doll at this moment. Amid the impact of the storm, Kyan heard this voice. The madness in his eyes disappeared instantly, and a smile appeared on his lips. The young master is indeed here. She was still so anxious. It seemed that her position in the other party's mind was more important than she imagined. When this thought fell, Kyan only felt her body flying backwards, and her waist was gently hugged by a pair of big hands. As the red flame wind god wings were retracted, her whole body did not fall into a familiar and warm embrace at this moment. Looking up at that handsome face, Kyan smiled happily at this moment. Sorry, I am late. Looking at Kyan's face as pale as paper, there was still a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth. Xiao Chen looked at the other party with distressed yet gentle eyes, then raised his hand to gently wipe away the blood from the corner of Kyan's mouth. Son. Kyan felt sweet in her heart when she heard this, and was about to say that she was fine. Xiao Chen raised his hand and pressed her lips. Have a good rest, and then, leave it to the young master. After saying this in a soft voice, Xiao Chen immediately issued a repair command to the system. With a flash of white light. After spending 120,000 points, Kyan's injuries were restored to their original state. Xiao Chen hugged Kai Yan and fell onto the double-headed dragon chariot. Then he raised his head and looked at Mo Zan in the distance, with a cold and cruel light in his eyes. God descends. As the sounds of these two words fell, Xiao Chen slowly closed his eyes and fell into Kai Yan's arms. Mo Zan never thought of it. His experience of being brutally tortured before his death also began after these two words fell. 42%. Chapter 203. Just now. Which hand did you hurt her with? Corpse. Corpse puppet. A corpse puppet that has entered the 9th level of sainthood. Feeling that his right arm was blown into blood foam, Mo Zan's face was full of horror at this moment, and he looked at the corpse puppet in front of him with an expression of extreme horror. A corpse puppet who has entered the 9th level of sainthood. Although there are some in Hengshan Mohism, there are only 2 of them. But those 2 corpse puppets were not refined by the Mo family, but by the corpse ancestor generals. If the Mo family had not reached a critical moment of life and death, the 2 corpse puppets would have been sleeping. Otherwise, with the help of these 2 corpse puppets, he will be the strongest of the 3 hidden families. It's not the Dongyuan Huo family, but the Hengshan Mohist family. So, among the zombie monsters currently controlled by the Mohists in Hengshan, the strongest ones have only reached the 8th level of the saint. But in front of me, a corpse puppet that has reached the 9th level of sainthood has actually appeared. Could it be that this corpse puppet is also the work of the corpse ancestor general? Escape. As the thoughts in his mind turned, Mo Zan did not continue to think deeply. The thought that comes to mind is to get out of here alive first. Almost as soon as the thought fell, Mo Zan unleashed his cultivation without hesitation, twisted the void and headed towards the bloody coffin. But also at this time, with the use of the divine descending method, Xiao Chen's true spirit consciousness also directly descended into the consciousness sea of the 5 elements undead corpse. When the 5 elements undead corpse puppet froze slightly, his eyes closed and then opened again. The blood-colored eyes that were originally just a little spiritual suddenly revealed a cold and cruel light of humanity. The woman who heard my young master. You still want to leave? Looking at Mo Zan disappearing in the twisted void, the 5 elements undead corpse puppet. No, it is more reasonable that it should be Xiao Chen at this time. Xiao Chen's hoarse words echoed in the void, and he mobilized the power of the 5 elements undead within the 5 elements undead corpse puppet. In an instant, the surrounding void also exploded, and Xiao Chen's figure disappeared like a ghost. Just as Mo Zan was about to approach the huge bloody coffin, he was forcefully blasted out from the gap in the void by Xiao Chen. That unrivaled power made Mo Zan's face turn pale, and blood spurted out of his mouth again. Who is the master, senior? I am Mo Zan, the 7th elder of the Mo family in Hengshan. I would like to thank you, senior. Feeling the gap in strength with the 5 elements undead corpse puppet, Mo Zan begged for mercy in a panic. But he wasn't done yet. The void in front of him shattered again, Xiao Chen's eyes flashed with cruel light, and he punched Mo Zan directly on the left chest. Boom! With a dull roar, Mo Zan's left chest was torn apart like a watermelon by this blow. The stumps were scattered into the void along with blood, causing Mo Zan to let out a shrill scream. Crush. A complete crushing. Facing this mutated corpse puppet with the 9th level of saint cultivation, Xiao Chen's true spirit consciousness is still controlling the body at this time. The fighting power that can be unleashed. Except for Lu Ruoxian, the strongest person whose cultivation level has fallen, there is almost no way for strong people below the Saint King level to compete with him. So even if Mo Zan has practiced for thousands of years, facing a cheating monster like Xiao Chen, he can only be ravaged without being able to resist. On the way to go shopping, I met my former classmate Yan Lingji. She seemed to be unmarried and wanted me to sit next to her and whisper to me. Sister Kyan, you are so happy. Looking at the void in the distance, Xiao Chen controlled the 5 elements undead corpse puppet and smashed half of Mo Zan's body with one punch. Murong Qingshe, Bai Suxin and others stood beside Kyan one by one. He looked at the scene in the distance. Then he looked at Xiao Chen, who had his eyes closed in Kyan's arms. Not only did he not feel the slightest bit bloody or unbearable. Instead, they all said with envy. Seeing Kyan being injured, the young master actually became so cruel. Obviously he could kill the opponent with one punch, but in order to give Kyan some breathing space, he was kind enough to let the opponent live a little longer. If they are injured in the future, young master will be so crazy. Then their whole life is worth it even if they die. After Kyan heard the words of Murong Qingshe and others, she looked at the brutal scene playing out in the distance. Then he looked at the man in his arms, who seemed as peaceful as sleeping after closing his eyes. Although Kyan didn't say any words, the happy smile on the corner of her mouth had not disappeared from just now to now. The look he looked at Xiao Chen became more and more doting. When all the girls were envious, Kyan's eyes were blurred. Mo Zan was punched hard by Xiao Chen a few more times, and the punches avoided his vital parts, preventing him from dying suddenly on the spot. Such a cruel and extreme scene shocked the surrounding surviving Sirius soldiers, as well as the seriously injured Sirius Emperor who had just climbed up from the chariot palace. Everyone was dumbfounded. A powerful man who had reached the 5th level of sainthood was actually treated like a piece of meat and brutally treated. This corpse puppet with colorful hair is actually so terrifying. He even had the same sanity as a human being, which simply broke their cognition. However, the Sirius Emperor and others had no time to think about it at this time. When he saw Mo Zan being tortured so miserably, the Sirius Emperor sent a message to his subordinates to issue instructions. The group of people cautiously kept retreating, preparing to take this opportunity to escape from this place first. Just now. Which hand did you hurt her with? And when the Sirius Emperor and others moved slowly, for fear of attracting Xiao Chen's attention. Xiao Chen pinched Mo Zan's neck, looked at his bloody body, and asked in a hoarse voice. Seeing Mo Zan's broken body, Xiao Chen's eyes showed a hint of cruelty. I forgot. You have no limbs. With that said, Xiao Chen immediately issued a repair command to the system, and a burst of white light shone at this moment. This is the perversion of the system. As long as it is where Xiao Chen's true spirit consciousness is, regardless of whether the body is his original body or not, the system functions can still be used. After spending hundreds of thousands of points, Mo Zan's body instantly recovered as before. This scene, not only Mo Zan was stunned. They also let the Heavenly Wolf Emperor and others, who were staring at Xiao Chen from a distance, slowly retreat, as well as the many powerful snake men in the Heavenly Snake City. Everyone was confused at this moment. He beat the other person into a human pig, and now he healed the other person's body in an instant. This kind of creator-like method is the ability that a corpse puppet should have. You want to torture and kill me. After sensing his limbs again, Mo Zan's pupils expanded rapidly, almost bursting his eye sockets. Next moment, there was a look of madness in his eyes, and the power of the Holy Soul immediately blasted towards Xiao Chen. The weakness of the corpse puppet is that the sea of consciousness between the eyebrows is not strong enough, and the soul power is relatively weak. If the soul of this corpse puppet could be severely damaged, then he might have hope of escaping. But as his wave of holy soul power blasted in, there was almost no reaction in Xiao Chen's eyes. It was as if the target of Mo Zan's holy soul's attack was not him. I'm sorry, my soul is not in this body. And if you want to obliterate this young master's true spiritual consciousness, you must destroy this corpse master's sea of consciousness and remnant soul in an instant. After saying these 2 sentences, Xiao Chen's eyes fell on Mo Zan's right arm, and his left hand directly grabbed the opponent's right wrist. Just now. Was this hand the one that hurt her? With that said, before Mo Zan could answer anything, a wave of 5-element undead power poured into it. This caused the arm to twist like a twist, and also caused Mo Zan to let out an extremely shrill scream. You damn guy, the Hengshan Mo family will never let you go. When these hateful words echoed in the world, Mo Zan burst into cultivation crazily and formed a seal with his other hand. Immediately wake up the 5 poisonous pythons sleeping in the huge blood-colored coffin. Bookmark. List. Forum. Settings. Lock. Edit_note. Play_circle. 42%. Chapter 204. This means the queen has a man outside. Arrow_back_ios_Nawaro_forward_ios. Boom. After Mo Zan awakened the 5 poison python, the huge blood-colored coffin also shook violently. An aura even more terrifying than Mo Zan suddenly erupted from this bloody giant coffin. The chains engraved with runes outside also collapsed from the bloody coffin at this moment. Immediately afterwards, the coffin board of the bloody giant coffin was lifted open by huge force. There are 3 heads on one head, and the whole body is dark green. The ferocious giant python, with pus still flowing from its head, also rushed out of this bloody giant coffin. The cruel and poisonous aura swept away like a storm, causing the expressions of the serious emperor and others to change drastically. As for Xiao Chen, he didn't even look at the appearance of the 5 poison python. He just stared at Mo Zan with cold eyes. It's time for you to hit the road. As the sound of this word fell, Xiao Chen did not continue to kill the other person, but pierced the other person's chest with one hand. Ha ha ha, do you think this elder will die so easily? Feeling his heart being pierced and the life force in his body draining rapidly, Mo Zan roared with a ferocious expression. Even if this elder turns into a monster today, you will still have to pay a heavy price. Blood soul. Transfer. In the last few words, a burst of blood burst out from Mo Zan's body, and his remaining body was burned at this moment. Then it turned into a stream of light and sank into the body of the 5 poisonous heavenly puppet python, causing the 5 poisonous heavenly puppet python to let out a roar. A burst of strange red and green light also erupted from his body, and his cultivation aura began to surge crazily at this time. In the blink of an eye, he broke through from the 6th level of sainthood to the 7th level of sainthood. It is even soaring at a terrifying speed. Blood sacrifice to yourself and the corpse chief integrated union. Interesting. Seeing Mo Cheng's remains turned into ashes, Xiao Chen waved his hand and put away the Mo Cheng's ring, then turned to stare at the 5 poison python. He is truly worthy of being a strong man in the Saint Realm, one of the 3 great hidden families in the Eastern Wasteland. There is such a method. However, in the face of absolute strength, all means are in vain. Roar. Just after the heavenly puppet 5 poison python broke through to the 7th level of sainthood, I thought that the other party was going to attack Xiao Chen, but unexpectedly, it burst into the void with a roar. I want to slip into the void and escape. This scene. Falling in Xiao Chen's eyes, a hint of ridicule appeared in his eyes, and he immediately stepped on the void and shattered the space. After the heavenly demon shadowless step is deployed, the whole person seems to be teleporting. Appearing behind the heavenly puppet 5 poison python, he grabbed the opponent's snake tail and pulled the opponent out of the void. Then, like waving a giant whip, shattering void whipped towards the serious emperor and others. No, senior, forgive me. Watching the void ahead collapse. The huge body of the 5 poisonous pythons of the sky puppet was thrown towards them, and the serious emperor and others were frightened to the point of death. But before the serious emperor finished his roar, the surrounding space exploded and collapsed, and many serious soldiers exploded into blood mist. The serious emperor was restricted and blocked in the void and could not break out his cultivation to dodge. The figure collided with the head of the 5 poisonous pythons, and the emperor's shirt instantly shattered, and a cloud of blood mist exploded from his body. His body, which was already seriously injured, was torn apart at this moment. Even the holy soul. In this terrifying energy explosion, he was torn into pieces on the spot, and a generation of emperors fell. After wiping out the serious emperor and others, Xiao Chen's momentum was not reduced at all, swinging the body of the 5 poison pythons, and smashed them into the desert below. With a roaring sound, the desert was like a tsunami, splashing thousands of feet of sand waves at this moment. The ground within a 10-mile radius was trembling violently. Such a brutal scene. Seeing Mu Lin floating in the air and many other powerful men, they all felt a biting chill. What is cruelty? What is invincibility? In the past, they were relatively vague about this idea, but now they can finally have an intuitive understanding. You are as strong as you can be. But I can still crush you. And, even if you use your trump card, you will still be completely crushed. Although they were not the ones taking action at this time, Mu Lin and others' faces turned red with excitement. After all, these damn guys just hurt their queen. Only, that voice just now said that the queen is his woman. This means the queen has a man outside. While Medusa was going shopping for clothes, Yan Lingji pulled me into a corner and said, "Do you want to be my underground lover? Are you crazy? Am I that kind of scumbag?" While Mu Lin and others were thinking about it, the 5 poisonous pythons of the heavenly puppet were thrown wildly to the ground by Xiao Chen, and Mo Cheng's resentful words also came from the 5 poisonous pythons of the heavenly puppet. You damn guy, behind my Hengshan Mo family, there is a Saint King realm expert. If you don't stop, even if there is a corpse puppet that has reached the 9th level of sainthood to control you, you will eventually die in the hands of the corpse ancestor. In this spiteful voice, the heavenly puppet 5 poison python roared, and terrifying undead power erupted from its body. At this moment, he cut off his tail and was instantly out of Xiao Chen's control. And while collapsing the void, the scales were like thousands of swords, carrying a strong poisonous and corrosive aura, and they fell towards Xiao Chen in an instant. So what if there is Saint King behind my back? I want you to die today, so you must go to hell and repent. Hearing Mo Zan's hateful words and the terrifying blow in front of him, Xiao Chen's eyes showed disdain. In the reverberation of the voice, Xiao Chen controlled the 5 elements undead corpse puppet and grabbed it, and the 5 elements Shira spear appeared in his hand in an instant. Next moment, after the power of the 5 elements of death was injected into the Shira gun, Xiao Chen just raised his hand and lightly swung the gun. There are no fancy operations. Only a 5-element spear light broke through the sky and the earth, and the scales of the 5 poisonous pythons in the sky were shattered into pieces. In the blink of an eye, the spear light caught up with the 5 poisonous pythons of the heavenly puppet, splitting the giant beast and Mo Zan's holy soul into 2 pieces from the middle. The 2 of them didn't even scream, and they completely perished at this moment. This scene, Kyan and the others, as well as Mu Lin and the others, looked shocked. Enter the Saint Realm and the strong man falls. This is something rarely seen among the 7 dynasties of the Eastern Wasteland. Unexpectedly, 3 strong men who entered the Saint Realm fell in the endless desert today. After Xiao Chen killed the 5 poison pythons and Mo Zan, he put away the body of the 5 poison pythons with a wave of his hand. Then clean up the battlefield. After recovering the stumps and rings of the Sirius Emperor and the Sirius soldiers, even the remains of the Sirius chariot were not spared, and then the true spirit consciousness returned to the main body. As his eyes opened again, Xiao Chen also woke up from Kyan's arms. As soon as I opened my eyes, he saw Kyan staring at him with burning and happy eyes. This wolf-like gaze made him a little embarrassed. What's wrong? Is it this young master? After being stared at for a while, Xiao Chen coughed dryly and said. But before Xiao Chen finished speaking, he was interrupted by Kai Yan. Stop talking and kiss me. When these words fell, before Xiao Chen could react, Kyan held up Xiao Chen's face. Then he kissed her very roughly. This scene, not only did Xiao Chen's eyes widen, but Murong Qingshe and others were also stunned. Even Mu Lin and others, who had the courage to approach from Tian Serpent City, were all collectively dumbfounded at this moment. 42%. Chapter 205 Your Majesty, I wonder if you can repair the remaining soul. WTF. WTF. The Queen.is actually forcibly kissing a human man. Looking at the double-headed dragon chariot, surrounded by many stunning women, Kyan looked like a lustful woman. He kissed Xiao Chen very selflessly, without caring whether anyone was there. This scene, it simply broke the cold image of Queen Medusa in their hearts. Mu Lin and others felt that their worldview had collapsed. A majestic queen, how could you be so unrestrained and careless about face in public? Ah, so sweet, I couldn't bear it anymore. My heart was beating wildly, my body was getting hot, and my legs were shaking. Seeing the 2 of them being so passionate and selfless, Murong Qingshe and others on the side almost cried with envy. Xiao Meier's eyes were filled with spring waves, and she wished she could also say something on the spot. It's so sweet and so delicious. A long time, after her mood calmed down a little, Kyan reluctantly let go of Xiao Chen. Sir, after I have settled things in Tian Serpent City, tonight, I will definitely reward you well. After saying this, Kyan turned around. Looking at Mu Lin and others, his expression became majestic and indifferent. We meet the queen. Seeing Queen Medusa return to her usual cold eyes, Mu Lin and others trembled and quickly bowed in the void. This cold and indifferent look is the queen they are familiar with. Are you just paying homage to me? Seeing that Mu Lin and others only bowed down to salute her, Kyan frowned slightly and asked with some dissatisfaction. Although it is a good thing to respect her as a king. But if Xiao Chen hadn't arrived in time just now, both the snake tribe and her would have been in a life or death crisis. Not to mention, Xiao Chen is now her man, and she must not be ignored by others. After hearing Kyan's words, Mu Lin and others were shocked and looked at Xiao Chen. Only then did I react. The man in front of me who could be kissed wildly by the queen should be the mysterious strong man who controlled the corpse puppet just now. This cultivation fluctuates. Damn it, why is there only the 7th level of nirvana? Wrong. With such a young breath of life, this human man is no more than 20 years old. He cultivated to the 7th level of nirvana before he was 20 years old, and was able to control a corpse puppet that reached the 9th level of sainthood. What kind of monster is this? As the thoughts in his mind turned, Mu Lin, a high priest who had lived for more than 400 years, came to his mind. He was the first to react at this moment and quickly bowed to Xiao Chen. Mu Lin, the old high priest of the snake tribe, has met the king. As Mu Lin took the lead in shouting this call, several other snake tribe chiefs followed. At this moment, everyone was trembling, and they quickly bowed to Xiao Chen. He Wu, the leader of the Black Snake Tribe. Zan Tong, the leader of the Black Snake Tribe. Dragon Snake Tribe. Meet the king. The next moment, as the elders of several major tribes saluted, Qian's brows relaxed. Kings. In the snake tribe, the husband who symbolizes Queen Medusa has almost the same status as her, the queen. This is also the entire snake tribe. The approval of Queen Medusa's husband. It's over, I was whispering to classmate Yan Lingji, but I was caught by classmate Medusa. She didn't listen to my explanation, and wanted to find my mother-in-law to educate me. I was so unjust. No need to be polite. Looking at these strong men from the snake tribe, Xiao Chen smiled lightly and replied. How is the situation of the major tribes? After Xiao Chen said this, Qian glanced at Tian Snake City and saw that there was nothing serious in Tian Snake City. He asked in a low voice. Although Tian Snake City is the core place of the Snake Clan, the Snake Clan is not that small, with a population of tens of millions. In addition to Tian Serpent City, there are 8 other branch tribes, each with a population of hundreds of thousands. They were scattered hundreds of miles away from Tian Serpent City in the form of Bagua Array. This can also be avoided. Once the snake people encounter any disaster, they will not be wiped out all at once, and some blood inheritance may be left behind. Except for the Viper tribe, other tribes are fine. After hearing Qian's inquiry, Mu Lin said in a heavy voice. The Viper tribe was raided by a team led by the Sirius Emperor, and the other party also had 3 strong men who entered the Saint Realm. There was absolutely no preparation beforehand, so it was no accident that he would be destroyed. The Viper tribe. I will avenge them. Qian's expression was cold when she heard this, and she looked far away in the direction of the Sirius Emperor, with a terrifying murderous intention flashing in her eyes. Although the Sirius Emperor has fallen, this dynasty still exists. If the Sirius royal family had not been exterminated, the Snake Clan's debt would not be settled. Certainly, Qian would not think about destroying the Tinlong royal family now. Although the injuries in her body were repaired by Xiao Chen, the beast fire energy that had not yet been refined was still suppressed in her limbs. Not to mention, Emperor Tinlong came with the people of the Mo family in Hengshan to destroy the snake people, and Mo Zan and the snake-like zombie monster both fell into the hands of Xiao Chen. This means, the Hengshan Mo family will not give up and may lie in wait within the Tinlong dynasty. If she goes alone to destroy the Sirius royal family, she may encounter a life or death crisis again. Then it will cause trouble for Xiao Chen again. Therefore, after thinking about it carefully, although Qian's heart was boiling with murderous intent, she could only resist the urge to seek revenge. There are Saint King level experts behind the Mo family. Regarding the matter of revenge, we will settle the accounts with them after Ruoxian comes out of seclusion. Feeling the fierce killing intent in Qian, Xiao Chen comforted her with a soft voice. Saint King realm. Unexpectedly, there is such a thing in Dongwang. They are currently not able to compete with a strong man of this level, and their combat power is absolutely terrifying and unimaginable. Unless Lu Ruoxian refines the elixir and comes out of seclusion, or the 5 elements undead corpse puppet advances. Otherwise they will have no chance of winning. Of course, the latter is still somewhat unsafe. After all, I don't know how far the Saint King realm powerhouse behind the Mo family has reached in the Saint King realm. If you rush to seek revenge on others, it is very likely that myriad tribulations will cease to exist. Therefore, it is safest to wait until Lu Ruoxian's cultivation reaches the 9th level of Saint King before going to destroy the Sirius dynasty and the Mo family. Well, I won't be impulsive. Qian nodded when she heard this, and answered softly. This gentle tone immediately made Mu Lin and others' eyes widen, with a look of disbelief on their faces. Such a gentle speaking tone. Except that more than 200 years ago, nothing happened to that one and the queen had not yet taken office. They were lucky enough to hear this tone. But since what happened to that man, the queen has completely closed herself off and become synonymous with cold-blooded ruthlessness. Unexpectedly, now, they heard the queen's soft voice again. It's a pity. If nothing happened to her, the snake tribe may have two strong men entering the saint realm. Thinking of another woman from the snake tribe who had the bloodline of the sky-swallowing python, Mulin couldn't help but feel a little complicated in his heart. As the high priest of the snake people, he has lived for more than 400 years. He watched these two sisters grow up. Unfortunately, the inheritance of the ancestral land can only allow one person to fully activate the bloodline of the sky-swallowing python. As a younger sister, Dai. Because she feels that her character is too weak to be the queen and lead the snake people to glory. In the end, she chose to fulfill her sister, who is now Kayan. Although Kayan successfully awakened the bloodline of the sky-swallowing python, she also met a very tragic end. Not only did his bones shatter when he fell into the abyss of his ancestral land, but his soul burned until only a ray of remnant soul remained when he forcibly sacrificed his blood. No, residual soul. With some emotion in his heart, Mulin seemed to think of something and immediately looked at Xiao Chen in front of him. His expression became a little nervous and expectant at this moment. King, I just saw that you can repair other people's bodies. I wonder if you can repair other people's souls. 43%. Chapter 206. What did you say? My sister is not dead yet. After finishing this sentence, Mulin's expression became extremely nervous, and the expressions of the clan leaders of several other major tribes around him also changed at this moment. It seems to be associated with something. Could it be that the high priest wants to invite the king to go to that place? The high priest's soul was wounded. After Mulin finished speaking, Kayan glanced over and asked in a somewhat surprised tone. But in her perception, although Mulin's aura was a little weak, there was nothing abnormal about the fluctuation of his soul. This made her feel a little confused. No, old man, I'm just a little curious. Mulin's heart trembled when he heard this, and he immediately replied nervously. Before confirming whether Xiao Chen had this ability, he did not dare to tell Kayan the truth about the matter. If not, this is another blow to Kayan. What's more, they had concealed this matter for 200 years, just in case there was no way to save and cure each other's sister. If Kayan gets angry because of this, they can't afford it. As long as the true spirit consciousness is not harmed, the soul body can be repaired by me. Seeing Mulin's whole body trembled with fright after Kayan asked, Xiao Chen also replied with a faint smile. The body is the container of the soul, and the soul is the carrier of consciousness. All living things, true spiritual consciousness is the fundamental source. Once it is completely annihilated, it will dissipate into the world. Not even the Supreme Great Emperor could revive him. But if it is a remnant soul, it still carries the true spirit consciousness. Even if the soul body is injured and cannot be revived, there is still the possibility of being repaired and resurrected. On the premise of not hurting the consciousness of the true spirit. After hearing Xiao Chen's answer, Mulin's brows also furrowed, and a look of melancholy appeared on his old face. Because they are all celestial human realm experts, their soul bodies have not yet undergone transformation. Unable to perceive the specific situation of true spiritual consciousness in the souls of other living beings. So I don't know if Dai, that is, Queen Medusa's sister, has true spirit consciousness still in her remnant soul. This is a bit difficult to do. Are you hiding something from me? Seeing that after Xiao Chen said these words, Mulin's face became melancholy and uncertain. The expressions of the chiefs of several other major tribes also became a little complicated. This made Kayan's eyes narrow slightly, and she spoke in a low voice. If Mulin was just a little curious, did Xiao Chen have this ability? The expressions of the other few people would not suddenly become so weird and complicated. Because if one person asks about something irrelevant, the expressions of the other people will instantly become weird. That proves one thing. These people all know the meaning behind that person asking this question. This is the detail she has realized during her 200 years in office. That's why Kayan now thinks that these people are hiding something from her. No, old man, I'm just curious. After hearing Kayan's words, Mulin became even more nervous, gritted his teeth and pretended to be calm. It's better not to talk about things that are uncertain right now. Afterwards, he would find an opportunity to take Xiao Chen to have a look secretly. Then decide whether to tell the queen or not. This is the most appropriate thing to do. Too sloppy. I was still anxious just now. He should have waited until he entered Tian Serpent City and then found an opportunity to ask Xiao Chen secretly. Why did he ask out of excitement? What a mean-mouthed person. After scolding himself hard in his heart, Mu Lin became increasingly guilty at this moment. Yushi, just don't listen to my explanation. She even dyed her hair red, and she plans to let me sleep in the living room tonight. It seems she wants Hongxing to cheat on her, damn it. The high priest really is hiding something from this king. After being promoted to the Saint Realm, the soul fluctuations of some celestial human realm powerhouses can now hardly escape her perception. Sensing the chaos in Mu Lin's soul, it was obvious that he was lying, Kyan said calmly. Then he looked at the clan leaders of several other tribes. Sensing the fluctuations in the souls of several other people, each of them was also a little confused and unstable. Her voice became a little cold. It seems that the high priest and several elders are aware of this matter, but I am the only one who is kept in the dark. Is this king unworthy of knowing this, or are you secretly doing things that endanger the snake people? As the last words fell, a cold breath also spread out. The expressions of Mu Lin and others changed. These old guys all know the methods of Queen Medusa of this generation. Perhaps it was because the death of her sister had dealt a huge blow to her. It also made her feel dissatisfied with the various shackles of this ethnic group while shouldering the heavy responsibility of the snake people. This makes the other party become somewhat extreme and selfless. But because I promised my sister, I have to shoulder the important responsibility of the clan. So even the celestial human realm elders of the snake tribe. Once someone dares to disobey orders, do so secretly, and harm the interests of the ethnic group, they will still be severely punished. Don't worry, there are some things. If you don't tell me today, one day, I will know it myself. Seeing the changes in the expressions of several people, Kyan continued calmly. This sentence, completely breaking down the psychological defenses of several people. Queen, we say. The chiefs of several major tribes were so frightened that they wanted to confess, but Mu Lin finally sighed. This matter. Let me talk about it. After all, it was old man who suggested this in the first place. If the queen wants to blame her later, let old man bear the responsibility alone. As he spoke, Mu Lin seemed to have opened the shackles in his heart, and said with some emotion in his voice at this time. When Dai fell into the abyss of the ancestral land, he actually did not die on the spot. It was us who deceived the queen. Boom. Although what Mu Lin said was not very loud. But like a thunder from the sky, it exploded in Kyan's mind. Kyan's pupils shrank violently, and the cultivation aura on her body instantly became chaotic. What did you say, High Priest? My sister is not dead yet. Overly excited, Kyan teleported directly in front of Mu Lin and grabbed Mu Lin with an extremely excited expression. That kind of terrifying power. It almost crushed Mu Lin's shoulders, and the pain suddenly caused Mu Lin's old face to twitch. Kyan, calm down first and let him finish what he said. After seeing the bones in Mu Lin's shoulders cracking and the pain on his forehead causing him to break into a cold sweat, Xiao Chen immediately appeared next to Kai Yan. He said while holding down the opponent's wrist. With Kyan's cultivation level in the 5th level of the saint, she lost control of her emotions and ran away violently. Even a strong celestial human realm man could be crushed to death by accident. After hearing Xiao Chen's words, Kyan felt a little out of control and immediately let go of Mu Lin's shoulders. High Priest, you say. I, the king, listen. After taking a deep breath to calm down a little, Kyan said with a trembling voice. That day, in order to fulfill the queen's wish, Dai used a secret method to burn the lifespan of the soul, reverse the bloodline, and transfer the power of the bloodline to your body. He fell into the abyss of the ancestral land. Ignoring the pain in his shoulder, Mu Lin took a deep breath and recounted what happened that day. But she fell into the abyss of the ancestral land and did not die. There was still a very weak ray of life left. The old man joined up with several other elders and used the power of the sky-swallowing python bloodline remaining in the blood pool of the ancestral land to repair Dai's injuries and revive her. But because the remaining blood power in the ancestral blood pool is not enough, there is no way to completely repair Dai's physical injuries. At that time, at the suggestion of the previous generation leader of the Viper tribe, we collected the essence blood of other types of python monsters and introduced it into the blood pool in the hope that it would have some repair effects. An accident happened. Although we repaired Dai's physical injuries, the opponent's bloodline also mutated, and then he turned into a giant blue-scaled python. And because she wanted to forcefully use secret techniques to transfer the power of her bloodline, Dai burned most of her soul before falling into the abyss of her ancestral land. So, after Dai's eye transformed into a mutated green-scaled giant python, he not only lost any sense of consciousness, and because of the hostility contained in the essence and blood of various pythons, it was slowly eroded and turned into a bloodthirsty monster. Normally, he is just sleeping, but once he wakes up, he will attack anyone in front of him. As a last resort, we had to imprison her in an underground cave to prevent her from escaping and hurting others or being hunted and killed. 43%. Chapter 207 Young Master, if you can save my sister, I will serve you together with her. Finished. Mu Lin couldn't help but sigh. Over the past 200 years, he and the chiefs of several major tribes have secretly thought of various ways. He even went to search for heavenly materials and earthly treasures that could nourish his soul, but resources and items in the endless desert were already very scarce. Except for some mineral resources, spiritual materials can be said to be very few. Not to mention the treasures of heaven and earth that can nourish the soul. They have not found even one for so many years, so they have not been able to awaken the butterfly's consciousness all these years. My sister is not dead yet. That's great. This is really great. After listening to Mu Lin's account of the incident, Kyan couldn't help but tremble all over, and there were even tears in her eyes. Back then, I watched my sister sacrifice her blood to awaken her bloodline, and then watched her fall into the abyss of the ancestral land, under the impact of the outbreak of bloodline awakening and mental collapse. At the same time that her bloodline was awakening, her consciousness also fell into a coma. Then wake up. Then she saw Mu Lin and the chiefs of several major tribes handing her Dai's bracelet with sad expressions on their faces and telling her that the other party had died. That moment, Kyan felt like the whole world had collapsed. A strong guilt and self-blame caused her to completely close herself off and become a cold-blooded and ruthless king. During that time, she not only bloodbathed many strong mercenaries in the endless desert, but also the rebels in the snake tribe. The whole person completely lost his smile. And Dai's death has always been a thorn in her heart. Since the butterfly is not dead yet, then why did you tell me that she had been cremated by you? Kyan raised her head with a cold expression when her heart was shaking and her emotions became unstable. As Dai's sister, she has been kept secret for 200 years. In the past 200 years, she has been suffering from guilt and self-blame, but these guys have always chosen to hide it from her. At that time, when the queen woke up from her coma, Dai had already mutated into a giant green-scaled python. But life fluctuations have been very unstable, and complete death seems possible at any time. In addition, the snake tribe was suffering from internal and external troubles at the time, so I didn't want the queen to be distracted by her. So I felt that the long-term pain was not as good as the short-term pain, so I suggested to hide the matter. Seeing Kyan's cold face, Mu Lin replied in a low voice, which made Kyan couldn't help clenching her fists. The breath on his body also became more and more unstable. In the following month, Dai's life fluctuations stabilized, and the queen seemed to have emerged from the shadows. Under the leadership of the queen, the snake people are beginning to show some improvement trends. In order not to distract the queen, and due to Dai's special situation, there is basically no hope of recovering again. So you guys have been hiding this from me for 200 years. Kyan took over the words with a cold voice, looking like she was about to explode completely. But, as Xiao Chen put his hand on her shoulder, Kyan's anger disappeared instantly, and her mood slowly returned to a calm state. Although you hid this from me for 200 years, you saved Dai anyway. I have no right to vent my anger on you. These two sentences fell. Immediately, Mu Lin and several elders looked up in astonishment. The queen actually said that she had no right to vent her anger on them. Did you hear wrongly? Each of them was prepared to be beaten up by Kyan, but they didn't expect that this queen could actually suppress her anger. Master, if you can save my sister, I will serve you together with her. When Mu Lin and others looked stunned, Kyan suddenly turned around and looked at Xiao Chen, her voice trembling at this time. This sentence, Mu Lin and others were instantly stunned. Obviously, he couldn't believe that such immoral words would come out of the queen's mouth. Fool, what are you talking about? Even if there are no additional conditions, the young master will try his best to cure your sister. Hearing Kyan's sudden outlandish words, Xiao Chen immediately laughed and then spoke softly. Go and check on your sister first. I hope the situation isn't too bad. After the words fell, Kyan looked at Mu Lin, who hurriedly said at this time. Because we were afraid that the queen would notice it, we did not imprison her in Tian Serpent City, but under a ravine cave 100 miles away. After saying that, Mu Lin took a deep breath, looked in one direction, and then said in a low voice, Queen, King, please follow me. After the words fell, Mu Lin was about to burst into cultivation and prepare to lead the way, but was interrupted by Xiao Chen. It's too slow to fly there. Please point out the direction and approximate distance, and we'll make a chariot and go directly there. At Xiao Chen's suggestion, a group of people boarded the double-headed magic dragon chariot, after determining the direction and approximate distance. Xiao Chen directly burned the spiritual crystal to jump in space. As for the elders of the other major tribes, they stayed in the heavenly snake to settle down their tribesmen. After being kicked out by Medusa, I sat lonely on the sofa in the living room, and suddenly a gentle figure came to mind in my mind, my ex, Sister Lu Shen. Soon, the group of people appeared on a gully rock wall, and then under the guidance of Mu Lin, the group came to the bottom of the rock wall. Then he followed a huge passage and came to a huge stone door. This is where the butterfly lives. Because in the past 200 years, her strength has been steadily improving, and now she has reached the 8th level of heaven and human. So in order to trap her, the old man and several elders also spent a lot of money to build this cave into a heavenly ranked cage. Looking at the huge stone gate inscribed with runes in front of him, Mu Lin suddenly said with emotion. Although the butterfly after the bloodline mutation does not have any spirituality and consciousness, its own strength can be improved independently. More than 200 years. Raising his cultivation level to the 8th level of heaven and human realm is enough to see how terrifying the opponent's bloodline is. After saying this, Mu Lin didn't continue talking nonsense. He formed a seal with both hands and entered the stone door. The entire stone door was opened with a roar, and the group of people walked into the cave. As for Qian, the queen, her heart trembled every time she took a step. Because it's in this cave. She sensed an extremely kind blood aura, which made her blood and soul throb strongly. Although this breath is a bit mixed, it is indeed the breath of a butterfly. Roar. Just when a group of people walked into a passage and came into a huge cave, a roar came from inside the cave. Next moment, accompanied by the sound of chains ringing, a giant green-scaled python with a body size of nearly 10 feet appeared, with its head locked in a cross ring and connected to chains. At this moment, he also pounced towards Xiao Chen and his group. However, the giant green-scaled python had just approached the passage, and the chains suddenly tightened at this moment. Restrict this big guy tightly. The green-scaled giant python kept roaring, and the terrifying demonic power erupted from its body, making the entire cave tremble. Die. It's really you. Seeing the ferocious green-scaled python in front of her, Qian couldn't control her emotions at this moment. He directly tore apart the formation barrier in front of him, ignored the terrifying demonic storm around him, and hugged the green-scaled giant python in front of him. And when being hugged by Qian, the giant green-scaled python suddenly stiffened, as if it sensed something at this moment. The original scarlet eyes. There was a flash of struggling light. This scene, Mu Lin immediately showed a hint of shock. Because after Dai turned into a mutated green-scaled giant python, as long as she was awake, anyone approaching her would be attacked crazily. Even if they used their unique secret method of taming snakes, it would have no effect on this giant green-scaled python. But now, this mutant green-scaled giant python slowly calmed down after being hugged by the queen on the spot. Could it be that butterfly is still conscious? 43%. Chapter 208. If I have a chance, I can try it out. If he doesn't move, it's all a fart. When Mu Lin was surprised, Xiao Chen directly used the identification function. The basic information about this green-scaled python also emerged before his eyes. A python mutated from the bloodline of the sky-swallowing python, its consciousness fell into a deep sleep due to damage to its soul. Currently, the remnant soul has been eroded by the hostility, and the true spirit consciousness cannot be completely awakened. If the remnant soul can be repaired and the entering spirit soul treasure can be integrated, there is hope that the sleeping true spirit consciousness can be awakened. If the remnant soul is completely eroded and dissipated by the hostility, it will turn into an unconscious monster. As these pieces of information emerged, Xiao Chen's eyes couldn't help but light up. Qian also came to her senses at this time, quickly let go of the giant python in front of her, turned around and looked at Xiao Chen nervously. Sir, my sister. Can she still be saved? Nervousness, trembling, anticipation, fear, words full of complex emotions echoed in the cave at this moment. It also made Qian's heart beat violently. It's not too bad. Seeing the trembling look in Qian's eyes, Xiao Chen didn't show off at this moment, and immediately said with a slight smile. Although your sister's soul is severely damaged, fortunately we arrived in time. As long as I repair and treat her, she should be able to wake up. In the state of Butterfly's remaining soul. If they had come a few years later, maybe the remaining souls would have completely dissipated. By then, without the carrier, the true spirit consciousness will also dissipate along with it. Even if the Supreme Great Emperor comes, there is no way to save the other party. My sister can still be saved. After hearing Xiao Chen's confident answer, the boulder in Kayan's heart fell at this moment, and she couldn't help but shed tears in her eyes. Son, I'm lucky to have you. My sister and I will be yours for the rest of our lives. Looking at the handsome face in front of her, Kayan said with blurred eyes. It doesn't matter if Dai is cured or not, whether he has the thought of committing himself to her or not. She will definitely convince the other person to serve Xiao Chen with her. Because under this world, the only man she can find pleasing to the eye and think is worthy of her sister is the man she likes. As the saying goes, the good news should not flow to outsiders. Rather than letting my sister be ruined by others, it would be better to serve Xiao Chen with her, that way everything can be fun. Ahem, let's treat your sister first. Hearing Kayan's straightforward words. Even though Xiao Chen was thick-skinned, he was inevitably a little embarrassed at this moment, and of course he was still a little excited. He has already experienced the atrocities of 5 white-haired beauties, as well as the 9 tales of death entangled by a pair of fox sisters. But the Medusa sisters' special cultivation method of ice and fire has never been tried. If you have a chance, try it out. If he doesn't move, it's all a fart. After saying this, Xiao Chen looked at the giant blue-scaled python, and his expression couldn't help but become a little weird at this time. This sister-in-law has not yet woken up. I never thought in my wildest dreams that I had been betrayed by my sister. However, looking at this ferocious appearance, it is really difficult to get interested. I hope that this sister-in-law will be as beautiful as her sister after she transforms. Otherwise, even if he is a grass python fanatic, he will feel that the gun is useless. During the turning of thoughts, Xiao Chen slowly approached the giant green-scaled python, but before he could get close to him, the green-scaled giant python seemed to be stimulated. At this moment, it let out a low roar, and the demonic energy on its body also swept across and exploded. He even opened his mouth wide and tried to swallow Xiao Chen directly. That day, Sister Lu Shen was drunk and lying on my door. She looked at me with blurred eyes and said that she had dropped her key. Could she come into my house and take a shower to sober up? I'm so embarrassed. Dai, don't be rude. Seeing such a big reaction from the giant green-scaled python, Kayan quickly stopped in front of the giant green-scaled python. Then he gently pressed the opponent's huge head, and all the chains collapsed at this time. The terrifying power of becoming a saint. Directly imprisoning the green-scaled python in the void, Kayan turned around and said to Xiao Chen. Sir, it's time to start. Xiao Chen nodded when he heard this. Then he took out a fragment of the demonic soul-capturing flower from the system space, repaired it into a saint-level low-grade spiritual material, and then took off the demonic soul-capturing flower with a wave of his hand. After picking off a few petals, he pressed them on the python's head. The flowers of the demon spirit soul-taking flower contain pure soul power. If it merges into the opponent's sea of consciousness, it can be combined with the butterfly's remaining soul to repair it. Not only can it protect the opponent's true spiritual consciousness from being eroded by hostility, but it can also restore a certain amount of soul power after the opponent's soul is repaired. Certainly, this situation only applies to the residual soul state, and the complete soul body cannot be synthesized and repaired in this way. Ding! The system has deducted 80,000 points and is repairing the soul body for dye synthesis. Ding! The system has deducted 38,000 points and is synthesizing all the blood vessels in the butterfly's body. Ding! The system has deducted 800,000 points and is upgrading the mutated sky-swallowing python bloodline for dye. In the flash of eyes, seeing that there were more than 3.8 million points left, Xiao Chen directly issued 3 instructions to the system in one breath. Since this is Kayan's sister, she is also his future sister-in-law, and even his future woman. Xiao Chen spent a lot of money at this moment, directly spending nearly 1 million points to upgrade the opponent's bloodline to the Saint King Supreme grade. I hope the other party can use this opportunity to break through to the level of Saint Realm. Anyway, during this trip to the Snake Tribe, he gained a lot of combat trophies. There are even various resources and items harvested from Dakion Imperial City. As long as these resources are recovered and converted into points, his points will undoubtedly easily exceed the 10 million mark. So next, Xiao Chen not only wants to upgrade his divine ability, but also every woman around him needs to upgrade. As the system prompts fell, the dazzling white light flashed 3 times in succession. All the remaining souls in the butterfly consciousness sea were repaired at this time. The soul power also continued to surge at an exaggerated speed at this moment because it was integrated into the petals of the demon spirit soul captivating flower. Even the modeled bloodline power in the body has transformed into the Saint King Supreme Grade mutated sky-swallowing python bloodline under the synthesis and upgrade of the system. From a level perspective, although his bloodline is not as pure as Kyan's, it is a little stronger than his opponent. And with the upgrade of the integrated union of the bloodline, a devastating wave of demonic energy also erupted in the body of the blue-scaled python. This caused the opponent's cultivation level to skyrocket. A terrifying devouring force, like a storm sweeping across, immediately swept through the entire cave. Upon seeing this, Xiao Chen quickly took out a pile of spiritual crystals, crushed them into vast spiritual energy, and was continuously swallowed by the giant green-scaled python. Such a horrific scene. It made the entire cave tremble violently, and also made Mu Lin, Michelle Yeoh and others look horrified. Is this about to break into the Saint Realm? Almost as soon as the thoughts of several people came to an end, the green-scaled giant python's cultivation level broke through to the 9th level of heaven and human realm, and at this moment it also launched an impact on entering the Saint Realm level. And as the bloodline of the sky-swallowing python inside the body mutates and upgrades, some inheritance hidden deep in the bloodline is constantly disappearing into the sea of consciousness at this moment. This caused Didi's consciousness, which had been sleeping for a long time, to gradually wake up from the darkness amidst the violent vibrations in his soul body. The originally scarlet eyes gradually became spiritual at this time. Immediately afterwards, with the blink of eyes, when the blue-scaled giant python refocused her vision, she saw a very familiar face floating in front of her eyes, with tears glistening with excitement on her face. An ethereal and soft voice also came from the mouth of the giant blue-scaled python. Sister. Sister. 43%. Chapter 209. What is this king trying to do to help their queen grow like this? Looking at this beautiful face, it seems so familiar, but also seems a little strange. Dai was not sure for a moment. Because she remembers. Her sister should be in the form of a snake man, but the person in front of her has human legs. But this extremely kind blood connection undoubtedly shows that this is her biological sister. It's just the other person. How could he look so small and look so excited that he looked like he was about to cry? Aren't they conducting a bloodline assessment in their ancestral land? Her sister was obviously seriously injured at the time, but she used a secret method to burn her soul and forcibly transfer her blood to the other party. Why is she still alive now? No, why did her body turn into a giant python? With various doubts flashing through his mind, Dai saw his huge body at this moment, and the whole python was frightened at this moment. I almost wanted to scream. She even felt the demonic power surging within her body, which was countless times more terrifying than she had ever been. Dai was completely confused. Calm down, condense your energy, and consolidate your mind. According to the bloodline inheritance method in your mind, condense your cultivation and impact into the Saint Realm level, and then control your cultivation to cross the heaven and earth thunder tribulation. For everything else, after you break through the realm and pass the thunder tribulation, my sister will naturally explain everything to you. Hearing Dai's familiar sister's voice, Kyan almost lost her guard at this moment. But she still resisted the urge to rush forward and hug him. Instead, he emphasized in a serious voice. She also has the bloodline of the sky-swallowing python and has successfully survived the thunder tribulation. She is very aware of Dai's situation at this time. Now what Butterfly has to do? It is to control one's own power first, and follow the blood inheritance method to break through to the Saint Realm. Only then is it possible. Only by not wasting the opportunity brought by this bloodline promotion would it be possible to survive the test of the catastrophe. Thunder tribulation into the Saint Realm. Thunder tribulation across heaven and earth. After hearing Kyan's words, Dai was even more confused at this time. When they accepted the ancestral blood inheritance assessment, their cultivation level was only at the 9th level of universal truth. All of a sudden now, is she about to break into the Saint Realm? However, even though she was extremely shocked and confused at this time, Dai was not stupid enough to continue to ask for the truth. Immediately his thoughts sank into his body and he began to control the power of cultivation crazily. Because before entering the ancestral land for the bloodline inheritance assessment, she was also a strong person in the universal truth realm who had been practicing for 70 or 80 years. So if you want to control this skyrocketing cultivation level at this time, although it is still a bit unaccustomed, it is not impossible. Plus in her mind, the bloodline inheritance of the sky-swallowing python clan continues to flow out, which also makes Dai more comfortable in controlling his cultivation than before. Over time, the cultivation aura exuded by the giant green-scaled python became more and more terrifying, and in less than half a quarter of an hour it reached the peak of the 9th level of heaven and human realm. But Butterfly is at this time. After barely controlling this cultivation level, he followed the inheritance method in his mind and launched an attack on entering the Saint Realm level. Roar. Accompanied by a roar, a dark 8-color light erupted from the butterfly's body, and the shadow of a ferocious 8-color sky-swallowing python also appeared behind the giant blue-scaled python. Immediately afterwards, the shadow of the 8-color sky-swallowing python and the giant blue-scaled python overlapped an integrated union, and then turned into a stream of light and broke through the stone wall cave. Dai's cultivation aura completely broke through to the first level of sainthood, and at this moment, the whole world heard a dull roar. And the entire stone wall cave began to collapse. Let's go out. I saw the giant python transformed from the butterfly, rushing towards the distant sky. Xiao Chen collected the broken chains on the ground, recovered them and exchanged them for points, and then left the cave with Kyan and his group. Sir, do you think Dai can she survive the thunder tribulation? Kyan didn't pay attention to the collapsed cave mansion below, but looked worriedly at the thundercloud in the distance. The terrifying level of the thunder tribulation in this world is only stronger than that of her transcending tribulation. Although she can get through it easily, Dai is different from her. The other party's true spirit consciousness has been sleeping for these years, and the years of true cultivation are only before the universal truth realm. The celestial human realm level cultivation experience can be said to be almost blank. Despite the inheritance brought about by the awakening of her bloodline, she still couldn't help but feel worried at this moment. Do not worry. I have upgraded the quality of her bloodline to Saint King Supreme grade. From the bloodline level, she will not lose to your sister at all. Although my cultivation and understanding may not be as good as yours, I have the blood inheritance and memory to back it up. This wave of thunder tribulation. She will suffer some pain at most, but her life will not be in danger. Hearing Kyan's nervous inquiry, Xiao Chen could only comfort him with a smile. If the bloodline level is only upgraded to the Saint Realm level, the bloodline inheritance memory is not fully awakened. Natty's transcending tribulation may be very dangerous this time. But Xiao Chen raised the opponent's bloodline grade to Saint King Supreme grade in one breath. With the support of such a strong foundation, as long as thunder tribulation is not a divine punishment, it should not be able to kill the opponent. Improve the quality of bloodline to Saint King Supreme grade. That day, Sister Lu Shen broke into my house drunk and kept asking me if her stockings looked good. I thought she was seducing me, but I had no evidence. Mu Lin on the side. After overhearing the conversation between Xiao Chen and Kai Yan, he almost fainted from fright, and his body couldn't help but tremble. As the high priest of the snake people, naturally, we know that above Saint Realm, there is a more powerful Saint King Realm. The blood quality reaches Saint King Supreme grade, as long as the opponent does not encounter any accidents in the future. If you have enough resources to practice, it is entirely possible to break through to the Saint King realm. Who is this king? Can you actually upgrade the bloodline of the Queen and Butterfly to the Saint King Supreme grade level? No wonder the Queen had an accident and was involved in space turbulence. After returning to the snake tribe, not only did her cultivation level not plummet, but she was able to easily break through to the 5th level of sainthood. It turns out that they all met this noble man, the king. But why would such a strange man with extraordinary abilities come to help their queen grow? What is the other party planning? After thinking of this, Mu Lin fell into deep thought. You don't have to be envious. Young master will also help you improve your talents. Seeing Murong Qingshe, Xiaomeier and others, they looked at Dai in transcending tribulation with envy. Xiao Chen comforted him with a faint smile. This made Xiaomeier, Michelle Yeoh and others look surprised on their faces. Really? After hearing Xiao Chen's words, Xiaomeier looked ecstatic, and then hugged Xiao Chen's arm happily. Then, brother Xiao Chen, can I be like her and increase my talents so that my cultivation level can reach the saint realm all of a sudden? Quote. Hearing Xiao Meier's bold words, Xiao Chen replied helplessly. How can it be? The reason why she can break through as soon as she improves is because she has been practicing unconsciously for the past 200 years and has accumulated strong enough cultivation in her body. In addition, my family has a special bloodline inheritance, so I can make breakthroughs in one go. Even if your talent reaches the Saint King level, although your cultivation level can be improved, you won't be able to reach heaven all of a sudden. These words dispelled the idea of Xiao Meier and others taking shortcuts. Xiao Chen, out of boredom, also began to recycle and count resources. And Mu Lin on the side. Seeing Xiao Meier hugging Xiao Chen's arm, she affectionately called Xiao Chen her younger brother. The queen was actually indifferent, as if she had become accustomed to it, or even didn't care at all. This situation just made him look stupid. What is the identity of this human woman whose cultivation level is only at the spiritual orifice level? How dare you act so coquettishly in front of the queen, making it clear that you are having an affair with the king? The queen isn't even jealous. Crazy, the queen not only has a man outside, but is also willing to share it with other women. Is this really the queen of their snake tribe? 43%. Chapter 210. No matter what the price, the royal family must make good friends with the snake people. The other side. In the Saint Realm Thunder Tribulation, Xiao Chen was counting and recovering the loot. Xian Chamber of Commerce Headquarters. As the void was torn apart again, Huang Guang's figure emerged. Ha ha ha, where is the young master? I want to invite him back to the palace, throw a big banquet and entertain him for a month. As the words echoed with laughter, Huang Guang glanced at the side room. When he discovered that there was no trace of Xiao Chen, a look of astonishment suddenly appeared on his face. Where are the people? Unable to see Xiao Chen and others, Huang Guang could only focus on Zikang, Ziling and others. Something happened to the snake people. Young master rushed over to deal with it. Hear Huang Guang's words, also feeling the terrible sense of oppression on the other party, Zikang replied subconsciously. Snake people, young master is still related to the snake tribe. Huang Guangwen was suddenly startled, and he spoke urgently. Tell me everything you know clearly. To know. Since the establishment of the Great Qian dynasty, it has been in order to rule this territory. The founder of the royal family directly drive the snake people into the endless desert, and strictly prohibit the snake people from entering the human territory. In order. The purpose is to let the snake tribe guard this barren land in the endless desert and serve as a buffer zone between the Sirius dynasty and the Great Qian dynasty. Therefore, the snake people not only hate the Tinlong dynasty, but also have a lot of grudges with the Daqian royal family. If Xiao Chen is related to the snake people, wouldn't the Daqian royal family be in trouble? Hearing this, Zikang and others could only explain. Tell them everything they know. Queen Medusa is the young master's woman, and she has broken through to the Saint Realm. After listening to Zikang and others describing everything, Huang Guang's pupils shrank slightly at this moment. During this time, the Fenyan Valley and the Zhenan Palace were destroyed one after another, which shocked him as an emperor. At the same time, he also wanted to find out who the real culprit was behind the scenes. Now after hearing Zikang's story, he already had the answer in his heart. Next, no matter what the price, the royal family must make good friends with the snake people. With the thoughts in his mind falling, Huang Guang made a decision at this time. Immediately afterwards, his eyes fell on a woman in purple clothes. Looking at this familiar figure, Huang Guang suddenly sighed with emotion. My cultivation has broken through to the first level of Xuandan, and I have also awakened a certain trait. Miss Ziling. It must have been cured by the young master, right? After these two sentences fell, the faces of Zikang, Zishuan and others changed slightly, but Huang Guang still noticed Ziling's presence. Could it be the other party hasn't given up on Ziling yet? Well, thanks to young Master Xiao, Ziling's dantian has been completely repaired now, and she has also awakened a special physique. But that's why Ziling must abide by the previous oath. In this life, she will be a slave and a maidservant, serving the young master. After hearing these two words from Huang Guang, Ziling's expression did not change and she replied in an unusually calm voice. Now that he has a relationship with Xiao Chen, Huang Guang will not pay attention to her again unless his head is caught in the door. Ha ha ha, the young master took action, it is indeed extraordinary. It may be God's arrangement for Miss Ziling to meet the young master. Just treat what happened back then as nothing happened, and be sure not to mention it to the young master. Huang Guang was not angry at all when he heard this, but instead pled cautiously at this time. When he wanted to make Ziling his concubine, he not only liked her appearance and figure, but also her talent and status. If you can take Ziling as your concubine, with his next methods, he can gradually take Zion Chamber of Commerce out of his hands. But the other party's persistence later and the oath he made. In the end he gave up the idea. And now, since it was Xiao Chen who cured Ziling, the other party also planned to follow Xiao Chen. Even if he was given some courage, he would not dare to covet Ziling again. Not to mention, as the Emperor of Dakion, he has now broken through to the level of Saint Realm. What kind of beauty does he want? Therefore, Huang Guang now not only does not covet Ziling at all, but actually avoids her like a snake or a scorpion. After asking me questions, Sister Lu lay down on the bed and said that she would spend the night here. She couldn't go back to her house anyway. This made me confused. That was my bed. Ha ha ha, congratulations to my father for breaking through to Saint Realm. Our royal family is about to rise. Just when Zikang, Ziling and others were surprised when they heard this, they didn't expect Huang Guang to be so rational and not miss Ziling at all. As a voice suddenly came in, a group of people walked in swaggeringly. Such a arrogant and domineering scene. Not only did Zikang and others frown, but Huang Guang also turned around with a cold face and a somewhat unkind expression. But, after seeing the visitors except his eldest son Huang Zihao, a young man in red also walked in from the front, with a flame mark between his eyebrows. Huang Guang seemed to have thought of something, and his pupils shrank at this time. A member of the Dongyuan Huo family. Only the core members of the Dongwang Huo family would create this special flame mark between their eyebrows. This symbolizes their status and power. Of course, he still doesn't know if he has other intentions. Father, this is young Master Huo Fengming, a direct descendant of the great elder of the Dongyuan Huo family. After I sensed that my father had broken through and entered the Saint Realm, I came here specially to congratulate. Seeing his father's eyes glancing over, Huang Zihao's heart suddenly froze and he quickly introduced to Huang Guang. But before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by Huo Fengming. Are you the Dakion emperor of this generation? After glancing at Huang Guang indifferently, Huo Fengming put his hands behind his back and spoke in a very calm voice. The great Qian dynasty belongs to the Dongyuan Huo family. Now that you have broken through to the Saint Realm level, you are qualified to become a worshipper of the Huo family. And my great-great-grandfather has reached the 8th level of sainthood, and he is also the most powerful elder of the Dongyuan Huo family. So, I plan to make you a worshipper of the Huo family. From now on, you will follow my great-grandfather. As for the throne, let this guy control it. The plain words carried an indubitable tone, and after they echoed in the room, Huang Guang's face instantly turned gloomy. These few words. Do you want him to give up the throne and become a servant of the Huo family? When Zikang, Zi Luo and others saw what was happening in front of them, they felt uneasy in their hearts. Dongyuan Fire family. This is the real behemoth of the eastern wasteland, and the dynasty is just a tool in their eyes. The direct son from the Dongyuan Huo family in front of him didn't look like a good person, so he hoped not to notice them. Oh, there are 2 more purple-haired beauties. When Huang Guang looked gloomy, Huo Fengming also noticed Ziling and Ziluo, and raised a faint evil smile at the corner of his mouth. You 2 are good-looking and qualified to be my lord's maids. When I leave, please go back to Huo's house with me. Plain words, although it is not an imperial edict. But as a direct descendant of the great elder of the Dongyuan Huo family, his words are more effective than the edicts of some emperors of the dynasty. I'm sorry, the 2 of them already have a man. When Huo Fengming finished speaking, Huang Guang's eyes flickered for a moment, then he raised his head and said calmly. In addition, should I become a worshipper of the Huo family, who will inherit the throne of Dakion? This seems to be all decided by me, so don't bother Mr. Huo. 44%. Chapter 211 Huolingji, you sincerely want to go against me, right? As these words fell, the atmosphere in the wing suddenly became heavy. The faces of Zikang, Zishuan and others couldn't help but change. Apparently they didn't expect Huang Guang to be so brave at this time, and they didn't give any face to this young master of the Huo family. That's the Dongyuan Huo family. Even though Huang Guang has now broken through to the Saint Realm, the Dakion royal family is still nothing to fear in front of the Dongyuan Huo family. Father! Father! Huang Zihao on the side turned pale with fright when he heard Huang Guang's words. This one, but the most outstanding grandson of the great elder of the Huo family, Martial Dao's talent has reached Saint level low grade, and he will definitely be able to break through the evil genius of Saint realm in the future. At only 26 years old, his cultivation has reached the third level of nirvana. If the Dakion royal family goes against him, I'm afraid it won't end well. Interesting, do you think? You can challenge the Huo family if you break through to the Saint realm level. Looking at Huang Guang in front of him, Huo Fengming smiled indifferently. The cold voice echoed in the room. An old man following him suddenly opened his eyes at this moment. An extremely terrifying coercion enveloped the entire wing in an instant, causing Huang Guang's pupils to shrink suddenly. This person is actually a strong person who has entered the Saint realm. And his aura is slightly stronger than him, and his cultivation should have reached the second level of sainthood. This guy, there is actually a strong Saint realm guardian beside him. The Huo family attaches great importance to him. Isn't it a little too much? I have no intention of challenging the Huo family, but I am also a strong person who has entered the Saint realm. Has its own blood and dignity. Although the Dakion imperial family is subordinate to the Dongyuan Huo family, not just anyone can boss around the Dakion imperial family. Huang Guang's expression didn't change much when he heard this, but he just stared at Huo Fengmingdao calmly. He looked like an emperor. Even if he has to pay a large amount of resources to the Huo family every year, now a junior from the other side wants to ride on his head. It's simply too much. With his current cultivation level, if he cooperates with the luck of the dynasty, he will also have the Imperial City Protection Formation. Even if he is a strong man who has entered the third level of sainthood, Huang Guang is still capable of fighting. So he wanted to take a look. Will the Huo family unreasonably attack the Dakion royal family just to pamper a junior? Ha ha ha, as expected of the Emperor of Dakion, he is indeed a bit brave. Seeing Huang Guang's unyielding attitude, Huo Fengming said with a gloomy expression. I can give you 3 points of thin noodles and let you become a worshipper of our Huo family. This is giving you a good fortune. But if you are so ignorant, I will not force you. But I have taken a liking to these 2 women. If you dare to stop me again, let your wife and daughter come over to serve me. The cold words echoed in this wing room, causing the expressions of Zikang, Ziling and others to change drastically. This is obviously, I don't want to completely break up with Huang Guang, but I can't let myself lose face. Therefore, Zi Luo and Ziling were regarded as trophies to force Huang Guang, the emperor, to compromise. He, you are indeed a well-known bestiality in the lineage of the Huo family's great elders. You are so domineering and want to rob a good girl from a good family. Aren't you afraid that if the master of the family finds out, he will completely ban you within the clan? Still, the head of the family is currently injured and in retreat. Do you think your great-grandfather can replace him? Just after Huo Fengming finished speaking, a beautiful voice came, and 2 figures walked into the room. The woman walking in front showed a charming look all over her body. The black hair spreads down like the Milky Way in the sky, and as the body swings, it is filled with a silky feeling. The eyes under the willow eyebrows are like blue waves containing spring, and coupled with a charming and beautiful face, it seems that every frown and smile can attract people's soul. And that hot figure wrapped in a tight red dress that outlines perfect curves. With every twist of the waist, the blood of countless men can surge. Huo Lingji is modeled after Yan Lingji, so her picture, well, it makes sense. Look at this figure. Huang Guang, Zikang and others were stunned for a moment, with a hint of surprise in their eyes. The woman in red in front of her is no less beautiful than Zi Luo and Ziling in terms of appearance and figure. But the strange thing is, the other party exudes a natural charm that neither Zi Luo nor Ziling can compare to. Huo Lingji, what are you doing here? Seeing this woman in front of me who looks as tender as water and can arouse other people's desires at will. Huo Fengming's pupils suddenly shrank, and he spoke with a fearful voice. Huo Lingji, the most evil being among the younger generation of the Dongyuan Huo family, was originally just an ordinary woman from the concubine lineage of the Huo family. But then he unexpectedly awakened Tian Xin Huo Mei body, and his talent suddenly soared to the saint rank level. He was also accepted as a disciple by an old woman from the Huo family who had reached the 7th level of sainthood, and his cultivation continued to advance by leaps and bounds at an exaggerated speed. He is only 23 years old this year. But his cultivation has reached the 4th level of nirvana, which is even stronger than this evil genius like him. And once, he desperately wanted to get this woman, but during the competition, he fell under the opponent's charm. In the end, he even made a fool of himself in public, hugging a tree and yelling at her. Let him lose face. Later, out of hatred, he wanted to take revenge and rape this woman, but this woman easily saw through it. And he stepped on his lifeblood. Although he was cured by heaven and earth spirit medicine, he still has some difficulties in having sex. After Huo Lingji caused such a big incident, she was only symbolically imprisoned by the family owner for 3 days. Therefore, Huo Fengming's heart was filled with hatred for this woman. But he couldn't do anything to the other party. Where you, young Master Huo, can come, why can't I show up? After hearing Huo Fengming's words, Huo Lingji flirted. No, she walked elegantly into the side room, and then came to Zi Luo and Zi Ling. Green jade fingers ran through their purple hair. The two sisters are so beautiful. No wonder this bastard is fascinated by you two. As she said that, Huo Lingji glanced at Huo Fengming and said indifferently. The head of the family is currently in retreat due to trauma, and the situation in the Huo family is not optimistic. We were all ordered to come out to look for talented people to see if we could treat the family master's injuries, but you are here to dominate. Is it because you don't take the family master's orders seriously, or are you, the great elders, feeling that you can take on the responsibility of the Huo family? You. After hearing Huo Lingji's words, Huo Fengming's face suddenly darkened. I was about to open my mouth to argue with the other party, but I remembered all the past experiences of being at a disadvantage. His face became extremely gloomy. Let's go. After snorting coldly, Huo Fengming left directly with the guardian. Huang Zihao looked at his father's gloomy face, then looked at Huo Fengming's leaving figure, gritted his teeth and hurriedly followed out. Thanks to this girl for coming to the rescue. When Huo Fengming and others left, Huang Guang took the lead in handing over. If this woman hadn't suddenly appeared today, I'm afraid the situation would have become very tense. And judging from what I just said, although the Dongyuan Huo family is very powerful, it is not very united internally. Moreover, for some unknown reason, the head of the Huo family seemed to be in retreat due to severe trauma. This seems like an opportunity. 44%. Chapter 212. This appearance and this temperament are completely different from Kayan. No need to thank you. I see that you are very confident. Even if I don't ask to help you out, you must still have the trump card to bluff him. Huo Lingji heard this and waved her hands, then spoke without any care. Sensing the presence of a strong man from the Saint Realm at Xi'an Chamber of Commerce, she thought something special had happened, but she didn't expect that Emperor Dakion had broken through to the Saint Realm. She has no interest in things like recruitment. It's urgent. It's better to look for any strong people with medical abilities, transcendent, who have the ability to treat strong people who have entered the Saint Realm. If not, if Huo Tianshang falls, the Huo family will inevitably be in chaos. Although she has obtained a supreme inheritance, if the protective umbrella behind her falls, there are many people staring at the primordial yin of her body. It's a pity that, in such a huge great Qian dynasty, there is not even a single capable person or stranger. Even the famous Dan King Ji Yu Qinghe was only half skilled in her opinion. When the thought falls, Huo Lingji immediately realized her situation and was ready to return to the Huo family. Miss Lingji, please slow down. Seeing Huo Lingji turning around and about to leave, Huang Guang's eyes flickered and he stopped her with a low voice. I just heard that the head of the Huo family was seriously injured and wants to find a capable person to treat him. I happen to know a capable person. He may be able to cure the injury of the Huo family master. After pondering for a while, Huang Guang decided. I would like to recommend Xiao Chen to Huo Lingji. Xiao Chen can heal his old injuries and illnesses in an instant, and even transform his talents with a few clicks. With such incredible means, it shouldn't be difficult to treat a strong man who has entered the 9th level of the saint. And Xiao Chen seems to need a lot of resources and items. As one of the 3 major hidden families in the eastern wasteland, the Huo family has accumulated an unknown amount of resources. Moreover, the head of the family is now severely traumatized, and he is undoubtedly a fat sheep to Xiao Chen. As for him, if you recommend Xiao Chen to the Huo family. Afterwards, both Xiao Chen and the Huo family had a great impression of him, so the Dakion royal family could benefit from both. Even if you don't get any substantial benefits, you can still get a favor from both. This is definitely not a loss. After hearing Huang Guang's words, the faces of Zikang, Ziling and others changed slightly. Obviously, he didn't expect Huang Guang to be so bold and want to recommend Xiao Chen to the Huo family. But think about it carefully. Thinking of the benefits and drawbacks, several people also showed a hint of surprise, with admiration in their eyes. What did you say? After hearing Huang Guang's words, Huo Lingji paused and immediately turned around in surprise. Even the protector who followed her looked at Huang Guang in surprise. The head of the family is a transcendent level expert who has entered the 9th level of the saint. The failure of this retreat to attack the Saint King has received backlash. It must be that the Meridians and Dantian have been traumatized. With that said, Huo Lingji slowly walked up to Huang Guang and spoke in a low and solemn voice. Did you know? The higher the level of cultivation, once the Dantian meridians in the body are damaged, it will be dozens or even hundreds of times more difficult than that of a lower level martial artist. Are you sure that the person you recommended really has this ability? The higher the cultivation level, the structure of the Dantian and meridians becomes complex, and the quality also becomes unimaginable. If not, it simply cannot withstand the vast amount of high-quality energy, so once it is damaged, it is unimaginably difficult to repair it. This is also the reason why once a high-level expert is injured, sometimes it may take dozens or even hundreds of years to heal the injury. I think young master should have the ability to heal the Huo family master. After hearing Huo Lingji confirm again, Huang Guang said calmly at this time. After being shocked twice by Xiao Chen, he was completely impressed by the other party, and he also had blind worship in his heart. Young master, Huo Lingji's eyes narrowed slightly when she heard this. Called like this, it sounds like a young man. Can he do it? If Miss Lingji is hesitant, you might as well wait until the young master comes back and try it yourself to see if he can do it. Seeing the suspicious look on Huo Lingji's face, Huang Guang couldn't help but said in confusion. Shall I try it myself? Hearing Huang Guang's words, Huo Lingji frowned. If she were allowed to test the other person's character and strengths, maybe she could find out with a charm spell. This medical skill, she was not injured or sick, so how could she give it a try? Is it possible that he has to harm himself or drug himself? Young Master Xiao is truly a peerless man. He has unparalleled methods for repairing meridians and Dantian. To be fair to Miss Lingji, my roommate's innate sexual pubic defect was cured by Mr. Xiao. Seeing the suspicion on Huo Lingji's face, Zikang also stood up and said at this time. If we could get to know and make good friends with this woman from the Huo family, it would be of great benefit to the Xian Chamber of Commerce. Oh, if that's the case, then tell me in detail, who is this Mr. Xiao? Seeing one and two people say this, Huo Lingji also became interested at this time. Immediately started to inquire about Xiao Chen. What she didn't know was that from this moment on, her fate also changed. The other side. In the endless desert. After spending more than half an hour, Xiao Chen finally sorted all the loot and recovered and exchanged it. Except for some useful heavenly rank materials, he recycled all other items. And his points balance directly to an astonishing more than 18.6 million. Such a huge sum of points surprised him greatly. Dai's calamity is about to end. When Xiao Chen's heart was racing, he was thinking about how to spend such a huge amount of points better next. Kaiyan on the side looked at the thunder tribulation in the distance, and said with some excitement at this time. This made Xiao Chen's eyes narrow slightly and he looked into the void in the distance. Boom! After the last thunder struck, the whole world lit up with a burst of silvery light. Next moment, in endless light, the green-scaled giant python burning with 8-color flames also began to transform while roaring and struggling. A blurry figure shrouded in light also replaced the giant green-scaled python. The remaining power of creation from the heavenly tribulation continued to pour into Dai's body. It makes the opponent's cultivation level continue to rise. Finally, after a wave of holy power swept across the world, his cultivation level was completely stabilized at the second level of sainthood. This kind of cultivation, although it is a little inferior to Kaiyan when she first broke through, it is still very amazing. After all, Dai's consciousness has been sleeping for the past 200 years, and he is just practicing independently after his body mutated. Once through thunder tribulation, you can reach the second level of sainthood, thanks to Xiao Chen's baptism and the terrifying blood inheritance. While Xiao Chen and Kaiyan were watching from a distance, Dai had already transformed into clothes after his transformation, then tore apart the space and appeared in front of everyone. One of them had a beautiful face, slightly similar to Kaiyan, but her eyebrows were softer than the others. She looks very pure and weak, but her figure is very perfect. A woman who looked like the girl next door also appeared in front of the group of people, which made Xiao Chen's eyes light up slightly. There should be pictures of butterflies and sweet and gentle Medusa girls here, but it's a pity. I can't tell the story again. This appearance and this temperament are completely different from Kyan. It feels like one should be passionate, while the other is tender. Maybe later. I can really feel the service of the two cold heavens of the Medusa sisters, cough cough cough. 44%. Chapter 213. This soft and special name seems a bit irritating. Elder sister. When Xiao Chen was thinking wildly, Dai saw Kyan looking at her blankly, and a sweet smile appeared on her pretty face. Did not expect. After burning her soul and sacrificing her bloodline, and falling into the abyss of her ancestral land, she was able to see her sister again. She thought that in this life, she could only be separated by life and death. Butterfly. After hearing Dai's sister call, Kyan finally couldn't restrain herself and immediately stepped forward to hug Dai tightly. Feeling the majestic vitality of this delicate body, it is an intact life, not a cold corpse. Kyan's accumulated self-blame and guilt for more than 200 years burst out at this moment, leaving a trace of tears in the corners of her eyes. It's so nice to see you. While murmuring, Kyan held her arms tighter, fearing that the butterfly in front of her was just an illusion. Sister, you are too fat. Hurry up and let go. I can't breathe anymore. Being hugged so passionately by my sister who was always cold in my impression. Dai's face couldn't help but turn red, and he spoke in a soft and waxy voice. The squeezing pressure on her chest almost made her suffocate. You damn girl, how dare you call my sister fat? After hearing Dai's words, Kyan's expression froze slightly, then she let go of Dai's delicate body and grabbed the other person's ears. There were so many warm and touching atmospheres, but this damn girl ruined them all as soon as she opened her mouth. It hurts, it hurts. Sister, please let go. I'm not a child anymore, and you still keep pulling my ears. Feeling Kyan's domineering way of educating her in the past, Dai slapped Kyan's arm and protested angrily. It's just that I crawled out of the eggshell late, but I have been suppressed by my sister. It's so abominable. Ahem. Looking at these two stunning beauties in front of me, the sisters are having a loving fight here, completely forgetting that there are people around them. Xiao Chen couldn't help coughing twice. Only then did Dai notice that there was still a large group of people there. But except for Mu Lin, the high priest, she didn't recognize any of the other faces. But don't know why, she seemed to have a cordial feeling from the bottom of her heart towards the handsome young man at the head. Let me introduce it to you. Seeing Dai looking at Xiao Chen and others with curiosity, Kyan smiled lightly at this moment and pulled Dai to Xiao Chen and others. My name is Xiao Chen. He is my sister's great benefactor and the man in my life. And they are the young master's beauties. As Kyan introduced Xiao Chen and others, Dai's eyes suddenly widened, and her small mouth couldn't help but open. Did she hear it correctly? My sister, who has always been aloof, actually has a man. And this man has many beauties. Even Mu Lin, who was on the side, had already made some assumptions in his mind, but now he heard Kyan admit it himself. His worldview collapsed again. What kind of charm does this Mr. Xiao Chen have? Not only can he conquer Queen Medusa as a woman, but he can also make her accept his other women. Sister. Brother-in-law, hello. After Kyan gave a brief introduction, Dai looked at Xiao Chen curiously and shyly, and then called her brother-in-law timidly. That sweet and soft look. It is hard to imagine that this is the sister of Queen Medusa, and it is even harder to imagine that this is a strong man from Saint Realm. She is completely like a young girl who is not familiar with the world. Brother-in-law. After hearing Dai's words, Xiao Chen's eyes lit up slightly. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but curve. This soft and special name seems to be a bit easy to irritate people and make him have thoughts that he shouldn't have. Cough cough cough. Damn, he's getting more and more evil, but it's really exciting to think about it. Call young master. After hearing this claim, Kyan's face became a little weird, and she couldn't help but corrected Dai. She was also planning to invite Dai to join the gang. This title made her feel awkward. Why? Hearing this, Dai turned his head somewhat cutely and looked at this sister with a puzzled expression. My sister's husband, isn't he just called brother-in-law? She must have called her correctly, right? No reason. Sister will tell you later. Anyway, you just have to obey first. Kyan's eyes flickered a little when she heard this, as if she thought of something and felt a little guilty. But the aura of being an older sister still suppressed this little girl, which made Dai feel a little depressed. Go back first. You two sisters have just reunited. You should have a lot to say. Looking at the two beauties in front of him, Xiao Chen smiled lightly and said. At this time, the communication jade pendant on his waist lit up slightly, and a message was transmitted into his mind, causing a surprised look on his face. Sir, has something happened again? Seeing Xiao Chen holding the jade pendant, his expression became a little strange. Kaiyan asked softly. No, it's just news from the Xian Chamber of Commerce that the head of the Dongyuan Huo family's Dantian Meridian was injured, and they plan to invite me to the Huo family to help them treat it. Xiao Chen waved his hand after hearing this and replied with some surprise. Then the young master is going to rush back to Dakian Imperial City again. Kaiyan's expression changed slightly when she heard this. The matters here haven't been dealt with yet, and she can't move away now. If Xiao Chen leaves in a hurry, the two of them may be separated. There's no need to be in such a hurry, just let them wait. Xiao Chen shook his head when he heard this and smiled nonchalantly. The head of the Huo family is not his father, and he is not the saint who saves the world and saves people. There is no need to rush back just to help others heal. Not to mention, the Dongyuan Huo family is one of the three major secluded families in the eastern wasteland, and their power is far beyond ordinary people's imagination. There are even many powerful people who have entered the saint realm. If something unexpected happens in this reckless way, he might not be able to deal with a 5 elements undead corpse puppet alone, so he had to convert his points into foundation first. That day, Sister Lu Shen insisted on staying, and the two of us had a heated argument. Looking at her pitiful eyes, I finally relented. When the thought falls, Xiao Chen waved to everyone, then boarded the two-headed demon dragon chariot, and the group of people galloped towards Tian Serpent City. Almost in less than a dozen breaths, Xiao Chen and his party returned to Tian Snake City. After arriving at the palace where Kaiyan lived, Kaiyan whispered to Dai. Although Xiao Chen was a little curious, he didn't follow him to take a look. Surrounded by many other beauties, he looked at the double-headed dragon chariot in front of him. The quality of this chariot is still a bit low. After murmuring, Xiao Chen untied the two-headed dragon puppet from the chariot, and then directly spent 650,000 points to upgrade the chariot palace to the Saint King Supreme grade. Immediately afterwards, it also upgraded to a necromantic demonic yuan fruit that entered Saint level middle grade, and a demon soul-eating flower that entered Saint level middle grade. Let the two-headed demon dragon puppet swallow them all, and then help the opponent upgrade their potential. Let the opponent's talent potential reach the Saint King Supreme grade, and the two-headed dragon puppet's cultivation aura will skyrocket. In an instant, he broke through to the level of the Saint realm. After roaring, he flew into the depths of the endless desert and crossed the world. Thunder Tribulation broke through to the level of the Saint realm. After upgrading the two-headed demon dragon puppet, Xiao Chen will naturally not forget the 5-element undead corpse puppet. After spending nearly 1,000,000 points, a Saint King level middle grade necromantic demonic yuan fruit and a Saint King level middle grade demonic soul-taking flower were created. After letting the 5 elements undead corpse puppet swallow it, let the opponent go to the Saint King Thunder Tribulation. Although he suddenly lost more than 2,000,000 points, Xiao Chen didn't show any distress on his face. As long as these two undead monsters can survive the Thunder Tribulation, his power base will undoubtedly skyrocket in the future. Even if an old monster from the Saint King realm appears, he will have the confidence to deal with it. Sir, we have something to say to him in private. Just after Xiao Chen finished improving the double-headed dragon chariot and the 5-element undead corpse puppet, Michelle Yeoh and others suddenly spoke. This made Xiao Chen slightly startled. Looking at Yun Zhiro and Li Mengru, who had their heads lowered, as well as Michelle Yeoh, Lu Hanfei and others, they all had longing expressions on their faces. Xiao Chen seemed to understand something and just smiled and nodded. 44%. Chapter 214 Young Master, what do you think of my two junior sisters? Alas, brother Xiao Chen was abducted again. Seeing Xiao Chen leaving with Michelle Yeoh and others to a palace arranged by the snake people, Xiao Meyer suddenly said with regret. Now that they are not outsiders, what else can they say in private? It's just that little thing that needs to be spoken in private, and it can be explained clearly only by practicing the movements. After all, I'm still a little bit different from them. Otherwise, we should bear the burden together and enjoy the blessing together. It is most reasonable for everyone to share the rain and dew together. Come on, you were nourished by brother Xiao Chen just 2 days ago, and you still want to dominate him all the time. With the majestic appearance of brother Xiao Chen, even if it makes you sick every day, you may not be able to bear it. Hearing Xiao Meyer's sigh, Xiao Linger immediately rolled her eyes. Somewhat jokingly, Xiao Linger, you stinky woman are here to cause trouble again. I don't know who screams the loudest next to me every time. After hearing Xiao Linger's teasing, Xiao Meier suddenly raised her eyebrows and pounced on him with all her teeth and claws. I plan to teach this ignorant woman a lesson. Watching the two of them play and fight. There were also the leaving figures of Xiao Chen, Michelle Yeoh, and others, and Marong Qingshe, Bai Suxin, and others sighed slightly. It seems that they will have to be more proactive in the future so that they can catch both rain and dew. Sister Qingshe, is that kind of thing really so obsessive? Yun Shi, who has always been a little transparent, looked at Xiao Meier and Xiao Linger like this, and remembered what happened last time. Her pretty face suddenly turned red, and she mustered up the courage to ask Marong Qingshe. She has not truly experienced the fact that she has not been able to fully awaken her bloodline. Although the last time was unforgettable. But she was still a little curious about what it would be like to actually do it. You girl, I will tell you how I should answer you, sister, after you experience it in the future. After hearing Yun Zai's words, Marong Qingshe rolled her eyes and said with a red face. If you have anything to say, you can say it. After walking into the palace, looking at the white-haired beauties in front of him, Xiao Chen coughed dryly and spoke. Although I had some guesses in my heart, I still couldn't say it directly. If there is a misunderstanding, it will be embarrassing. Sir, what do you think of my two junior sisters? Michelle Yeoh waved her hand and closed the palace door completely, with a cunning look on her face, and then said something meaningful. This sentence. Immediately, Yun Jiro and Li Mengru both blushed and lowered their heads, their hearts beating violently. Although they are both strong in the celestial human realm, matters regarding men and women are like a blank slate. At this time, the two people were about to face each other, and they were inevitably a little panicked. All good. Not only is she beautiful and fragrant, but her cultivation is also able to stand alone. Looking at the entire dynasty, even the Emperor Dakion can't help but feel moved. Xiao Chen smiled lightly when he heard this. These few words immediately made Yun Jiro and Li Mengru look happy, and they both felt flattered in their hearts. It seems that being praised and recognized by Xiao Chen is enough to sublimate their souls. Then, young master, will you be moved? Seeing the smile on Xiao Chen's lips, Michelle Yeoh became playful for a moment and asked knowingly. These words immediately made both Yun Jiro and Li Mengru nervous. If Xiao Chen is not interested in them, then wouldn't they both be qualified to be Xiao Chen's woman from now on? It seems that you went to the house to reveal the tiles without fighting for 3 days. You already had the answer in your mind, and you still pretended not to know and asked the question. Xiao Chen was already sure after hearing this, so he stopped talking nonsense and said something to Michelle Yeoh. Then he pulled him into his arms. Next, let's see how I teach you a lesson. As these words echoed in the palace, Michelle Yeoh couldn't help but exclaimed, and quickly asked Lu Hanfei and others for help. Oops, the young master is about to go crazy. Junior sister, hurry up and save me. As Michelle Yeoh exclaimed, a fierce battle began in the hall. The other side, also in a palace. What, you want me to serve Mr. Xiao? Listening to Kyan talk about what she has experienced over the years, how she met Xiao Chen, and how she became his woman. Dai was mesmerized by what he heard for a while, with a look of distress and emotion on his face. Unexpectedly, in the 200 years since she fell into the abyss of her ancestral land and lost consciousness of her true spirit, her sister would have experienced so many things. This made her feel very distressed inside. However, this feeling of distress and emotion turned into confusion and shock at this moment as Kyan said the last words. Go crazy. Is this what my sister can say? Young master is the only man that my sister has recognized in her whole life. Although the young master has a lot of confidence around him, the young master values love and justice and will not favor one over the other. We all get along well with each other. In addition, the young master is extremely handsome, and his talents and qualifications are unparalleled. It is still the reincarnation of a certain supreme power, and he will definitely dominate the world in the future. We can become each other's women. Not only can we find someone to rely on, but we can also see a wider world in the future. Seeing Dai having such a big reaction, Kyan was not surprised at this time, but explained with blurred eyes. After saying that, the entire hall became dead silent, and Dai looked at Kyan blankly. After a moment of silence, Dai tentatively raised his hand and touched Kyan's forehead. Sister, do you have a fever? You're the one who got mad. Hearing Dai's straightforward words, Kyan's face couldn't help but blush, and she opened Dai's palm angrily. Although when she thinks of Xiao Chen, she does get hot all over and wants to rub him into her body. But being exposed by her sister like this, even though she used to be cold, now she feels a little embarrassed and unable to hold back. Sister, I mean the fever that ordinary people get when they get sick, not the tantrums like when a little female snake is about to reproduce. Dai looked at Kyan's unfamiliar appearance, was stunned for a moment, and then spoke in an unusually serious tone. This sentence. Kyan's face suddenly froze. You damn girl, your consciousness has been sleeping for 200 years and when you wake up, your courage is so high, right? How dare you say that my sister is a little female snake in heat? Next moment, Kyan said with an annoyed look. He directly pulled Dai over and tried to teach him a lesson like he did when he was a child. However, the opponent has now broken through to the Saint Realm level. He actually used the space to dodge and ran around in the hall. This Kyan made me angry, but I couldn't really hit him. Okay, come and sit down. After playing around for a while, Kyan suddenly became serious. Ling Didi paused slightly, then couldn't help but make a face, and then sat down in front of Kyan. Sister asked you. You have been secretly sizing up the young master before. Do you actually like him in your heart? After Dai Lao sat down obediently, Kyan asked seriously. Not at all. I was just curious about him and wanted to see what my sister's man was like, so I secretly looked at him before. After hearing Kyan's words, Dai's face turned slightly red and he immediately defended himself. Oh, just curious. Kyan's expression did not change when she heard this, but her eyes narrowed slightly and she looked at Dai with a scrutinizing gaze. You peeked at the young master 8 times along the way, and you blushed 8 times. Is it really just curiosity? 45%. Chapter 215. My sister is someone who has been through this before and has experience in this. How could I peek 8 times and blush 8 times? Sister, you are talking nonsense. After hearing Kyan say these 2 words, Dai suddenly became anxious at this moment. He quickly started to quibble. However, facing her coquettish sophistry, Kyan still looked at her quietly. The critical gaze cultivated after becoming a queen seems to possess the magic power that can shock the soul invisibly. Dai felt very uncomfortable all over and became increasingly guilty inside. In the end, she couldn't bear the gaze anymore, so she could only lower her head with a red face and a broken expression. Okay, I admit that I peeked at my brother-in-law before and blushed several times. Seemingly stimulated by the colorful smoke, Dai was also willing to risk everything at this moment and said whatever came to his mind. But, it's not like I suddenly fell in love with my brother-in-law and blushed. Call young master. Hearing Dai call out the title brother-in-law again, Kyan couldn't help feeling ashamed. He immediately coughed and corrected himself. Oh, sir. Dai nodded when he heard the words, then couldn't help lowering his head and said in a shy voice. I noticed that my sister's primordial yin aura has been broken, and that she still has brother-in-law.no, there is still Mr. Xiao's aura. So I couldn't help it. I imagined the 2 of you together. To the end, Dai's voice became very soft, and her face became a little red. A strong feeling of shame almost made her explode on the spot. In the span of more than 10 breaths, she actually thought about it 8 times. I feel ashamed every time, but also very curious. That's why I secretly looked at Xiao Chen several times, and couldn't help but blush every time. Dai, you. After hearing Dai's answer, Kyan was stunned for a moment, then a look of shock appeared on her face. She ran through several possibilities in her mind. The most likely possibility is that Dai likes Xiao Chen. But she didn't expect that the other party was thinking about this. Isn't it too bad? You little naughty snake. Kyan took a deep breath to suppress the shock in her heart, then grabbed the other person's ears and shouted in a low voice. Tell me, how many human erotic pictures have you seen behind your sister's back? Sister, I don't have one, please don't accuse me wrongly. Stop it. Hearing this, Kyan interrupted Dai's sophistry, and then continued with hatred for iron. After you fell into the abyss of the ancestral land, I went through your room several times to sort out your things. Result, I found a few erotic pictures under the bedboard, a few more on the beams, and a few more in the vase. There are even cracks in the stone walls of the bathhouse, and you still want to quibble that you haven't seen it. It is said that snakes are inherently licentious. I used to think that this sister was very innocent, but I didn't expect to find out later that she actually liked watching this kind of thing. Or the human version. I don't know which human mercenary this damn girl got from. It made her sad, angry and funny at the same time. No wonder the other party had always yearned for a free life and dreamed of taking a human form and visiting the great Qian dynasty. Sister, please be gentle, your ears are about to fall off. When Qian grabbed his ears, Dai grimaced in pain and his face was as red as a monkey's butt. Did not expect. She accidentally picked up something in the endless desert, broke it into several parts and carefully hid it, but was finally found by her sister. This made Dai so embarrassed that he wanted to dig a hole and bury himself. You've grown up. It's perfectly normal to be curious and yearn for things between men and women. Seeing Dai's blushing face, she almost buried her head in her chest. Qian did not make fun of this sister. Instead, she curled her lips slightly and said in a bewitching voice, "Sister is someone who has been through this before and has experience in this. That kind of thing is more wonderful than imagined. It not only makes people feel ecstatic, but also makes them want to sink in desire forever. Do you want to experience it?" Boom. Hearing Qian's words, which were as deceptive as a demon's, Dai felt like there was a roar in his mind, and he immediately raised his head in disbelief. Sister, you are so naughty. After taking a deep breath to suppress the shock in his heart, Dai's face turned red, and finally he could only hold back these words. This made Qian's face stiffen again, and she was almost angry with this younger sister. Phew, calm down, my sister, you can't really hit me. After taking a deep breath, Qian forced herself to calm down, and then asked in a broken voice. Do you have someone you like? No, as my sister's savior, the young master is also your savior, and even more so the Snake People clan's savior. Do you have a crush on him? Have. Okay, sister, I'll ask you again. We have a deep love as sisters. I have identified myself as the master in this life, and I will follow him in the future. Do you plan to stay in the Snake People and be the queen, or do you want to go outside with your sister? Hearing Dai being moved in step by step, Qian's lips curved up. What, sister, are you going to abandon the snake tribe and go out with that young master Xiao? After hearing Qian's last words, Dai couldn't help but panic at this moment. Although her cultivation level has broken through to the saint realm. But she doesn't think she's qualified to be a queen. This has been proven a long time ago. If not, she would not choose to sacrifice herself to become her sister. In addition to wanting her sister to survive, she also felt that she was more suitable to be the queen of the Snake People than she was. If my sister leaves with young Master Xiao and no longer cares about the Snake People's affairs, it will be a blow to the Snake People. Well, instead of telling a story in this chapter, here is another image of a butterfly with butterflies in the background, which feels more relevant. Don't worry, I won't leave the Snake People alone. I'm just leaving temporarily to go wander with the young master. I originally wanted to hand over the burden to the high priest and let him temporarily handle the affairs of the clan. But if you were to take charge of the snake tribe, it would be better for you to act as the queen. As he said that, seeing Dai's face becoming flustered, Qian's smile grew thicker. After all, you have grown up and should take on important responsibilities. After saying this, Dai was completely frightened. She used to rely entirely on this sister, and besides practicing every day, she enjoyed flowers and plants. Occasionally, I would look at erotic pictures and play with the little butterflies. Let her take on the important responsibility of the Snake People, and the Snake People will probably be destroyed by her. Sister, how bad are you? In order to force me to serve the same man with you, you even threatened my sister with the burden of the Snake People. How can I be a sister like you? Thinking of this, Dai muttered a small mouth and protested with an aggrieved look. My biological sister actually wanted to sell her own sister, and she was doing it for a man. I really don't know what kind of evil is going on. Okay, sister is just a suggestion. If you don't want to, my sister won't force you. If you don't want to manage the affairs of the Snake People, I will arrange for someone else to act as your agent later. From now on, you can go see the outside world with your sister, but remember, you are not allowed to run around alone without your sister's permission. Seeing this pitiful face, Qian did not force the other party in the end, but just touched the other party's head with a doting look on her face. Just stay with her. If the contact with the young master continues, this silly girl will not be able to resist him. Very good. Sister, I love you so much. Hearing Qian's words, Dai said with joy. The whole person hugged Qian excitedly. Immediately afterwards, as if thinking of something, he raised his head with a red face, and then looked around. He leaned close to Qian and asked in a low voice. Sister, is that kind of thing really amazing? Can you describe to me what it feels like. Don't get me wrong. Woo-woo, don't look at me like that. I'm just curious. Nothing else. 45%. Chapter 216 The Murderous Intention from the Mo Family, the Order from the Corpse Ancestor General. Within the Zion Chamber of Commerce, everyone in the group was extremely nervous after Zaluo sent the message. Young Master has replied. As the messenger jade pendant lit up, Ziluo said in surprise. However, when Huang Guang, Zikang and others looked excited, Ziluo's words calmed them down a lot. The master said, the matter of the snake tribe has not been settled yet. He will have to wait for a few days before he can come to the Chamber of Commerce. After hearing these two words from Ziluo, Huang Guang and others looked disappointed. After learning about our Huo family's invitation, he actually dared to make us wait. This young master Xiao is quite arrogant. After Ziluo finished speaking, the old man next to Huo Lingji opened his eyes slightly at this time and said in a hoarse voice. There was obviously some dissatisfaction in his words. The Dongyuan Huo family ranks first in overall strength among the three major hidden families in the Eastern Wasteland. There are more than 12 strong people who have entered Saint Realm. In their eyes, any dynasty is basically like an ant. But this Mr. Xiao didn't come immediately when he learned about the Huo family's invitation. Instead, they were asked to wait for a few days. Instead of saying no, I just asked you to wait for a few days. It seems that this Mr. Xiao must have full confidence. Ignoring the old man's words, Huo Lingji's eyes flickered and she spoke in a soft and charming voice. In that case, let's wait for him here for a few days. I hope this young master will not disappoint me. After that day, the relationship between me and Sister Lu Shen became very subtle. After she returned to the room, she sent me a photo, talking about flowers before and under the moon, and asked me to guess the second line. I was confused. On the other side, the Mohist family in Hengshan. It was still the same conference hall that was richly decorated but full of eerie atmosphere. The leader is an old man, the head of the Mo family, Mo Changgong. He glanced at the other people in the hall, and his words echoed in a heavy and hoarse voice. Mo Zan is dead, and the 5 poisonous pythons of the heavenly puppet are gone. In just one day, the Mo family lost 2 strong men who entered the Saint Realm. It can be said to be an unprecedented heavy loss. And according to the message sent by Mo Zan before he died, the person who took action was a mysterious strong man who can control the corpse puppet of the 9th level of Saint. He even has an incredible ability that can heal all injuries in the blink of an eye. Even a strong person in the Saint Realm can heal. Speaking of this, Mo Changgong's pupils shrank sharply, and everyone in the hall also looked shocked. Obviously they can't believe it. There is such a defiant person in this world. Even the injuries of the strong men in Saint Realm can be repaired in the blink of an eye. Even the powerful Saint King can't do such a terrifying thing, right? The head of the family. What should we do? Feeling horrified in his heart, one of the old men frowned and analyzed in a serious voice. This man killed Mo Zan and the 5 poison pythons of Heavenly Puppet, and has completely become enmity with our Hengshan Mo family. And the other party has such a special ability. If it is not eradicated as soon as possible, it may become a serious problem. I suggest, all the powerful Saint Realm men from the Mo family dispatched together and immediately rushed to the Endless Desert to capture this person. If we can force the other party to hand over the secret of controlling Saint Realm's zombie puppets, we can also help the Saint Realm's strong men repair their injuries in the blink of an eye. Our Mo family can make up for all the losses this time. Finished. An aura of greed, along with strong killing intent, filled the entire hall. If you can get that 9th level Saint Corpse puppet, plus that mysterious repair ability. Even if they cannot use the 2 strongest corpse puppets left behind by their ancestors, the Hengshan Mo family still has the ability to suppress the other 2 major families. You can have ambitions, but don't get carried away. After the old man finished speaking, Mo Changgong's eyes flickered and he reminded in a hoarse voice. We haven't found out the origin and details of each other yet. Are you sure? That corpse puppet that has reached the 9th level of sainthood is that guy's biggest support. Are you sure? Behind him, are there no other strong men or zombies? Everything has not been investigated clearly. If the other party's background is more than this, then we people will die. Mo Changgong did not lose his mind, but said these words with a sneer. It was like a bucket of cold water being poured over the head, which calmed the old man and the others down a lot. He ruled the 2 dynasties for a long time, covering nearly 1/3 of the Eastern Baron area, and became one of the 3 overlords of the Eastern Baron. All of these old guys were a little confused. I really thought I was in the 7 dynasties of the Eastern Wasteland. Apart from the other 2 major families, are there no other forces that can compete with them? Ridiculous. This world is so vast, with countless capable people and strangers. Now that a mysterious strong man has appeared and killed the elders of the Mo family, there is a chance that a second, more powerful mysterious strong man will emerge. After all, the eastern wilderness is just extremely barren, and strong men from the eastern domain rarely set foot here, but it does not mean that they are completely isolated from the eastern domain. For example, the corpse ancestor who takes care of their Mo family is a strong saint king from the eastern domain. The head of the family. Let's just forget it. After hearing Mo Chenggong's words, the 3rd elder of the Mo family frowned and asked in a low voice. Don't worry, Mo Zan and the 5 poisonous pythons of heaven cannot die in vain. Mo Chenggong lowered his eyes slightly when he heard this, thought for a while and then continued. Wait until I report this matter to Lord Corpse Ancestor. If the Corpse Ancestor knows about the existence of this person, we will act according to the Corpse Ancestor's orders, and we must settle the matter if necessary. If the Corpse Ancestor doesn't pay any attention to this person, it proves that this person is not famous in the Eastern Domain, and there is probably no Saint King Realm powerhouse behind him. After that, you will send people to sneak into the Snake People and secretly investigate that mysterious strong man. What is his relationship with the Snake People? If nothing can be found, pay attention to his movements. Once the other party leaves the Snake People, we will destroy the Snake People and collect some interest first. As these words came to an end, the eyes of other people present were stern. As expected of the head of the Mo family, he is indeed thoughtful enough. If you can use this person's mystery to attract the attention of the corpse ancestor, let him attack this person. Then the other party will be in big trouble. If the other party is not easy to mess with, it is an existence that the corpse ancestor is afraid of. Then they can change their strategy and pay the price to turn their enemies into friends. But if the corpse ancestor is not interested in this person and is not afraid of him at all, then they can kill them all. Buzz. Almost as soon as Mo Chenggong finished speaking, everyone wanted to say something. With a buzzing sound, a skull crystal ball suspended in the hall suddenly bloomed with a strange red light at this moment. A pair of cold and demonic blood-colored eyes also appeared on the crystal ball. Zombie. Zombie ancestor. Seeing the pair of pupils appearing in front of them, Mo Chenggong and others were shocked. Next moment, each one of them knelt down beside the conference table without any hesitation. We pay our respects to the corpse ancestor. With extremely nervous expressions, both Mo Chenggong and other elders shouted respectfully. Help me find a woman with saint rank qualifications. Her physical attributes should preferably be fire attributes, and she must be a young girl. Besides, I want to live, and you are not allowed to hurt her. Left hand. After Mo Chenggong and others knelt down and saluted, an indifferent and soft female voice came out. Also echoed in the hall. Demo Chenggong and the others raised their heads in astonishment, with expressions of confusion and confusion. Corpse ancestor, are you looking for a successor disciple? It's not right. The techniques practiced by the corpse ancestor are yin and cold. If you want to find a disciple to inherit, you should look for a woman with extremely yin physique. What the hell are you looking for in a young girl with a fire attribute physique? It can't hurt the opponent's left hand. Is it to collect yang and replenish yin? 45%. Chapter 217. If you want to know, go find the young master and try it out. I will give you 7 days to help me find this woman. While Mo Chenggong and the others were stunned, the female voice sounded indifferently again, frightening Mo Chenggong and the others. 7 days. Mo Chenggong and many elders of the Mo family couldn't help but widen their eyes. 7 days. Find a young woman from one of the major dynasties in the Eastern Wasteland who has saint rank qualifications and who has fire attributes and primordial yin. How can this be? You know, in the barren land of Eastern Wasteland, saint rank qualifications still exist. But each one is extremely rare, and not one among tens of millions of people may be found. And many of them may not be able to awaken even if they are born because of insufficient supply of spiritual energy from heaven and earth. And the corpse ancestor still has so many demands, how can he find them within 7 days? How? Can't do it. Seeing Mo Chenggong and others raising their heads with horrified expressions, the blood-red eyes flashed slightly, and the solemn words echoed in the Mo family hall. This made Mo Chenggong and others break out in cold sweat. The corpse ancestor general would only take care of the Mo family in Hengshan from time to time because of his friend's reputation, but that didn't mean that the other party wouldn't take action against the Mo family. If the Mo family couldn't fulfill the corpse ancestor's request, it would be a trivial matter to lose this protective umbrella. If you don't make the other party angry, the Hengshan Mo family will be gone. Zombie ancestor, 7 days seems a bit too urgent. Can you? While thinking, Mo Changgong gritted his teeth and said. But before he could finish his words, a terrifying aura immediately enveloped the entire hall. The powerful men of the Mo family all felt as if their throats were being pinched. There was a look of panic on their faces. Zizu, I remembered. There is the person you were looking for in Dongyuan Huo's house. Just when everyone started to sweat on their backs, and everyone thought that the corpse ancestor was going to get angry, the third elder of the Mo family seemed to have thought of something. He said with some excitement in his voice. I have seen the information sent by my subordinates. Among the younger generation of the Dongyuan Huo family, there is a concubine who has awakened the heavenly heart fire body. Martial Dao's talent seems to have reached the saint level supreme grade. And because the cultivation method is somewhat special, and because he was accepted as a disciple by the fourth elder of the Huo family, he has not been defiled by any man so far. She can definitely meet the requirements of the corpse ancestor. As these words fell, the expressions of Mo Changgong and the other elders changed slightly. Immediately afterwards, there was a glint in his eyes, and he was even a little excited. They didn't pay attention to the juniors of the Huo family. They didn't expect that there was such a person among the juniors of the Huo family. But now, this may be an opportunity. Bring her back. The corpse ancestor had no emotion when he heard this, and just replied in a calm voice. Zombie ancestor, Dongyuan Huo family's strength is very extraordinary. If you want to bring that person back. Mo Changgong lowered his head and said with twinkling eyes. But before he finished speaking, corpse ancestor's voice sounded. I allow you to dispatch the 2 corpse puppets. If anyone prevents you from bringing back the woman, you can kill them. If there is any trouble that cannot be solved, you can call me if necessary. After leaving these 2 sentences, with a flash of red light, the pair of bloody eyes disappeared. There was only a bloody token floating quietly in the air. The corpse ancestor order. Seeing the bloody token in front of them, Mo Changgong and others' pupils suddenly shrank, and then their faces showed a look of ecstasy. Corpse ancestor order. This is the corpse control token refined by the corpse ancestor generals. If there is this thing, all corpse puppets below the Saint King level will be controlled by the token. Naturally, this includes the 2 corpses sleeping in the ancestral land of the Mo family that have reached the 9th level of the saint. It even includes corpse puppets refined by others. Master, with the corpse ancestor order, we can kill the snake people and seize the corpse that has entered the 9th level of sainthood to avenge Mo Zan. Looking at the corpse ancestor order in Mo Changgong's hand, the third elder of the Mo family breathed rapidly. Mo Zan has a good relationship with you. It is reasonable that you would be eager to take revenge. Hearing this, Mo Changgong put away the corpse ancestor token, and then continued in a low voice. But the most urgent thing. It's better to complete what the corpse ancestor told us first. The Mo family can't bear the corpse ancestor's wrath. What's more, we can dispatch 2 zombie puppets this time, and there is the support of the corpse ancestor behind them. This is a great opportunity for us to destroy the Huo family. After capturing the Huo family woman alive and destroying the Dongyuan Huo family. With corpse ancestor helping us hold the show, it won't be too late to avenge Mo Zan. After speaking, Mo Changgong glanced at several people, and his voice gradually became serious. Prepare, sacrifice, and come out of the coffin. This time, the head of the family will personally lead the team, and all the elders of the Mo family will be dispatched. We must completely wipe out the Huo family. Faced with Sister Lu Shen's question, I casually replied, playing with water. Unexpectedly, the senior sister said that I was great. How did I know she wanted to play with water, and even sent me a photo? Inside Tian Serpent City, when the corpse ancestor general gave the order, the top brass of the Mo family prepared to dispatch. Listening to Kyan telling her life experiences, Dai's face was so red that she was almost bleeding. Feeling weak, can't help but scream. Will it be as out of control as a flood bursting its banks, and even the whole body is convulsing and the soul is about to fly out? Sister, is it really so magical? After hearing Kyan's description, Dai seemed to have opened the door to a new world, and confirmed with shame but unable to hold back his curiosity. You damn girl, how many times have you asked me this question? If you want to know, go find the young master and experience it. Hearing Dai Rui repeating the previous question with a blushing face like a good baby, Kyan rolled her eyes angrily. really are? She asked these shameful questions with a curious look on her face. After she patiently explained them, the damn girl kept asking them again and again. The nature in her bones is stronger than hers. This damn girl is useless. Sister, what did you say? How could you go out of your way to find out about this from your brother-in-law? How shameless and talented. After hearing Kyan's answer, Dai said shyly, "Call young master." Kyan reminded helplessly after hearing this. "I keep calling this name. The other party will subconsciously regard Xiao Chen as a relative. What kind of sparks can there be between the two of them? Unless this damn girl is born with a bad temperament, is extravagant and restrained, and wants to be excited. Only then would he call Xiao Chen brother-in-law and pretend to be innocent to seduce him. I'll go take care of the clan affairs. Just stay in the room and think carefully about what my sister just said." After saying that, Kyan ignored the dead girl Dai and left the hall directly. That Mr. Xiao.is he's so good. After watching Kyan leave, thinking of Kyan's compliments to Xiao Chen just now, and the fact that she was also rescued by Xiao Chen this time, Dai felt her cheeks continue to heat up, and she became more and more curious about this man. After pondering for a moment, she also walked out of the hall. I plan to observe this brother-in-law secretly to see if he is that good. Next moment, Dai tore apart the space casually, and his figure appeared above the main hall, and his sole thoughts spread at this time. I plan to find the location of this brother-in-law. Hey, is there any restriction in this hall? I felt that in a hall not far away, there seemed to be a heavenly rank restriction, which should have been placed by a strong person from the celestial human realm. Dai felt a little curious at this moment and immediately landed on the main hall. This forbidden barrier seems to have been set up by the women around my brother-in-law. What are they doing in there? After feeling the breath of the forbidden barrier, Dai looked at the hall at his feet and fell into deep thought. The human race and the snake race have always been at odds. Although those women were my brother-in-law's beauties, no one could guarantee that they would not do bad things. Otherwise, why create such a strong barrier to isolate perception? While thinking in his heart, Dian couldn't bear the curiosity in his heart, and the power of the Holy Soul also surged out. This forbidden barrier can isolate the celestial human realm from the strong one's perception. But for a saint realm powerhouse like her, it still doesn't have much blocking effect. As the soul thoughts penetrated the barrier silently, the scene that happened in the hall was introduced into the mind at this time. This caused Dai's pupils to expand rapidly, and her mouth opened into an O shape. 45%. Chapter 218. Actually, what my sister just said to you was a bit conservative. Hey, sister, my brother-in-law is stealing someone. I saw that there was chaos in the main hall below. Dai was completely frightened at this moment and almost shouted on the spot. My sister is in another hall. How can my brother-in-law be like this next door? It's so bad and ridiculous. I must tell my sister. When his face turned red with shock, Dai said indignantly. But the next moment, not only did Dai not leave in a hurry, but she lay down with a red face. No, now there is insufficient evidence, so I can't explain the details clearly. I have to observe it in detail, write down all the details, and then explain everything to my sister. After mentally making an excuse for his peeping behavior, Dai then restrained his cultivation aura, lay on the roof of the hall, and observed the movement in the hall with a red face. Hey, these women. How can they make such a gesture? So exciting. It's more intuitive than what's shown in books. Strange, brother-in-law. Why did he glance at me? Did he find me on the roof? It's impossible. I am a strong person who has entered the saint realm, and my brother-in-law is only in the nirvana realm. There is no way he can find me. Lying quietly on the roof, Dai was blushing but very curious. Even the body became a little hot. She likes to peek. Just when Dai was fascinated by it, Xiao Chen in the main hall seemed to sense something. After he glanced up at the roof, he couldn't help but have a look of surprise on his face. This restricted barrier was set up by Michelle Yeoh and others, which is enough to block the prying eyes of any celestial human realm powerhouse. And inside Tian Serpent City, apart from Kyan and Dai, there are only 5 elements undead corpse puppet, which are strong men who have entered the saint realm or above. But the other party has gone to Thunder Tribulation now and will not come back without his order. What's more, the other party only has simple spirituality and no high-level consciousness at all. He is a completely negligible existence. As Kyan's woman, she naturally didn't need to guard against anything. But he never expected that this sister-in-law would spy on her, which made him even more surprised. It seems that next time, the 5 elements undead corpse puppet will have to be used to set up a 5 elements barrier. When the thought falls, Xiao Chen ignored the butterfly on the roof, but became even more manic under this stimulation, making Michelle Yeoh and others beg for mercy. What are you doing lying here? As night fell, Kyan returned to the main hall after handling the affairs and did not see Dai. After some searching, Hun Yen. I found Dai lying on the roof, his body still like a stove, constantly emitting hot steam outside. Kyan swayed slightly and immediately appeared on the roof, grabbing Dai's ears directly. Lift the other person off the tiles. Okay, you little naughty snake, I just said to try looking for the young master, and you came here to peek. Looking at Dai, his face was red, as if he was about to have a nosebleed. Kyan hates the fact that iron cannot become steel. What a shame. How could a majestic Medusa come to be such a snake who looks innocent but yearns for this kind of thing in his heart? Sister, it hurts. Seeing that the most exciting part was interrupted by Kyan, Dai shouted with dissatisfaction. After rubbing his ears, Dai glanced down and said furtively. Sister, brother-in-law. He is stealing people, aren't you angry? What's on your mind? After hearing Dai's words, Kyan patted the other party's head, glanced down and said calmly. Young master, this is called rain and dew. It is a normal thing. What's there to be angry about? Saying that, Kyan seemed to have thought of something, and said meaningfully at this moment. Actually, what my sister just told you was a bit conservative. Well, you're right, sister. Also serve the young master with her other sisters. If Shoutier falls in the future, sister, maybe she will join you, to open your eyes. Boom. After Kyan said the last words, Dai felt a roar in his mind. His pupils widened again, his face full of disbelief. But the next moment, Dai seemed to have thought of something, and immediately blushed and whispered. Sister, what you said is too vague. Can you elaborate on it? Quote. Kyan was speechless when she heard that Dai was not frightened, but looked serious. Come, go back to the main hall with sister first, and sister will tell you carefully. When she felt angry and funny, Kyan grabbed the other person's ears and directly pulled Dai back to the palace. When I was looking at the photos and thinking deeply, Sister Lu Shen sent another message, saying that she really wanted to go camping and play in the water. Can I go together? This is for hunting. The next day, as the sun shines brightly, after the temperature in the endless desert continued to rise, Xiao Chen, Michelle Yeoh and others also walked out of the hall. At this time, Xiao Chen's cultivation aura had reached the 9th level of nirvana. Even the cultivation levels of Michelle Yeoh and others have made new breakthroughs compared to before. Michelle Yeoh broke through to the 9th level of heaven and human beings, and Lu Hanfei broke through to the 8th level of heaven and human beings. Li Qingying broke through to the 7th level of heaven and human realm, and both Yun Zhiro and Li Mengru broke through to the 6th level of heaven and human realm. This is because after Xiao Chen spent 4 million points, he upgraded the talents of several people to the Saint King Supreme grade, and crushed 1 million spiritual crystals to fill the entire hall. Supplemented by some heavenly materials and earthly treasures, as well as the coordination of Wangji's room control skills, only a few people can achieve breakthroughs in their cultivation. Unfortunately, now as his realm improves, every time Xiao Chen improves his cultivation level, he needs more and more energy. So this time, even with the dedication of Yun Zhiro and Li Mengru, as well as the assistance of Michelle Yeoh and others, Xiao Chen could barely advance to 2 minor realms. But Xiao Chen is already very satisfied with this improvement. After all, in just over a month, from the 3rd level of Kaiyuan to the 9th level of Nirvana, no reincarnation of the Supreme Great Emperor was as perverted as him. Hiss, you have achieved a breakthrough in your cultivation. Feeling the changes in the cultivation of Michelle Yeoh and others, Bai Sukin couldn't help but take a deep breath, with a look of shock and envy on her face. I upgraded their talents to the Saint King level, so their cultivation level has changed like this. Seeing Bai Sukin and Bai Sukin's shocked faces, as if they had thought of something, Xiao Chen said with a slight smile. Next, when I take care of the snake people's affairs, I will help you improve as well. After comforting Bai Sukin and Xiao Meyer, the group also arrived at the Snake Clan's royal palace. This is the core place of the snake people. It is the place where Queen Medusa of all ages convened the high priests and elders to discuss major matters of the snake people. Since the snake people built this royal palace, no human has been able to step into this place. And Xiao Chen and his group But it was like entering a deserted place, coming directly to this hall. Meet the king. Seeing Xiao Chen's arrival, Mu Lin and others immediately bowed, with respectful expressions on their faces. Is everyone here? Looking at Kaiyan and Dai sitting on the throne above, Mu Lin and several elders stood below. Xiao Chen didn't waste any time at this time and spoke straight to the point. I am going to take your queen away. Before I leave, I will improve the strength of the snake people. All matters within the clan will be handled by the high priest for the time being. Wah! What? Hearing Xiao Chen's words, he was already overstepping his authority. Mu Lin and others' expressions changed one by one, and they looked at Kai Yan, the queen. The snake people cannot live without Queen Medusa, just like a dynasty cannot live without a monarch. Just take the queen away. What's next for the snake tribe? He alone as a high priest cannot suppress other elders and other surrounding forces. Is it possible? Do you want Dai Lai to inherit the throne of queen? 45%. Chapter 219. Do you just thank me verbally? Not only will I leave temporarily, but Lian Dai will also leave with us. Seemingly sensing the shock and confusion of Mu Lin and others, Kaiyan added calmly at this time. What? Dai also wants to leave with the king. After hearing Kaiyan's words, the expressions of Mu Lin and others changed. These are the only two strong men from the snake tribe who have entered the Saint Realm. If Xiao Chen abducts him and never comes back, will the snake people be left alone? Don't worry, I will take them away this time, and it's not like they will never come back again. With the space array here, as long as we are still in the eastern wasteland, if anything happens to the snake people, we can rush back at any time. With that said, Xiao Chen casually took out a space array disc and raised his hand to make it float towards Mu Lin. This is a saint-level supreme-grade space formation disc that can be communicated with several other places, allowing the snake tribe to enter other regions. Next, Xiao Chen explained how to use the space array disc. Also tell Mu Lin and others about the affairs with the Xiao family in Luyun City and the Qingqiu Fox clan. After finishing talking, the pupils of Mu Lin and several other tribe leaders couldn't help but widen at this moment. If you enter the saint-level space array, can you still lead to the human region? Mu Lin stared at this formation disc with trembling eyes. If it was true as Xiao Chen said, then this formation disc would be of great use. They are snake people. It is completely possible to use this array to enter the 100,000 mountains to search for resources. So, it can definitely solve the problem of the snake people's lack of resources. This is undoubtedly a huge opportunity for them. Your Majesty, the snake clan has always been hostile to the human race. If we go to Shiwanda Mountain through the Qingqiu Fox clan, what if the Dakian royal family finds out? Feeling surprised and shocked inside, Mu Lin couldn't help but feel worried when he thought about the grievances he had with Great Qian dynasty over the years. Although the Queen and Butterfly have both broken through to the Saint Realm, their top-notch combat powers are not afraid of joining the royal family at all. But behind the Dakian royal family is the Dongyuan Huo family, one of the three most powerful hidden families in the eastern wasteland. The snake people have already provoked the Hengshan Mo family. If another Dongyuan Huo family comes, it will definitely be an unimaginable disaster. Don't worry, Emperor Dakian has been subdued by me, and the snake people don't have to worry about them from now on. I will tell him and the leader of the Qingqiu Fox clan that if the snake clan wants to change their lives in the future, they can find a place to live in Shiwanda Mountain. Xiao Chen waved his hand when he heard this and said nonchalantly. Emperor Dakian has been subdued by the king. Hearing Xiao Chen's plain words, Mu Lin and several tribe leaders couldn't help but take a deep breath. This is just the first benefit I have given to the snake people. Seeing that Mu Lin and the clan leaders of several major tribes looked shocked, Xiao Chen smiled lightly and asked calmly. You guys do you want to break through to the Saint Realm? The words were not very loud, but when they fell in the minds of several people, they were no less than a thunderbolt from the blue. Everyone raised their heads sharply and looked at Xiao Chen with trembling eyes. Your Majesty, want to help us break through to the Saint Realm? Thinking of the meaning behind Xiao Chen's words, Mu Lin, the high priest, was so excited that his body trembled. He saw it with his own eyes. Xiao Chen repaired Dai's soul damage in the blink of an eye, and purified and upgraded the mottled blood in the opponent's body. After Ling Didi woke up, he awakened the bloodline of the sky-swallowing python. The cultivation level directly breaks through from the 8th level of heaven and human realm to the 2nd level of sainthood. If Xiao Chen is willing to help them break through, then their bloodline will definitely be sublimated to the extreme. You are afraid that I will take them away. You are just worried. The snake tribe lacks top experts to take charge. Once an accident like the one before happens, they will be annihilated in an instant. But as long as you guys improve in strength, you, the high priest, can break through to the saint realm. Even if these two sisters are not in the snake people, you are still capable of ensuring the safety of the snake people. Xiao Chen did not rush to answer when he heard this, but just explained with a slight smile. Then he glanced at a few people, paused, and then continued. Of course, I can't help you improve like I can help your queen, but I can repair the old injuries and diseases accumulated in your body, and then improve your talent potential to the saint level. This is not difficult to do. There are a total of 8 celestial human realm experts from the snake tribe present. To repair the hidden disease and upgrade the bloodline talent, each person will need about 200,000 points. That adds up to more than 1 million points. He now has more than 11 million points left, and he has enough confidence to withstand this consumption. Whoever told him to take away Kayan and Dai must give an explanation to the snake tribe. If not, even if Kayan and Dai follow him, they will always worry about the snake people from now on. Unexpectedly, Sister Lu Shen actually took me camping the next day. We also found a small pool. That day, the sky was blue and the water was clear. I was also very happy. Thank you, Your Majesty. After Xiao Chen said these words, Mulin and others were so excited that they knelt down. Can you just thank me verbally? But before the words of several people fell and Xiao Chen had not yet spoken, Kayan said calmly. Although the snake tribe is her tribe, she can't let Xiao Chen suffer. After all, Xiao Chen has paid too much for the snake tribe. Even if the two sisters pledge themselves to each other, they will never be able to repay the debt in this life. And in the past 2 days, although the snake people's inventory of resources has been almost moved. I plan to wait until the matter is over before handing it over to Xiao Chen. But in her opinion, these old guys in front of her should have some private goods. Your Majesty, this is some of the wealth that Lao Chan has accumulated over the years. Although there are not many resources and items, it is also a little bit of Lao Chan's thoughts. After hearing Kayan's reminder, Mulin's expression immediately froze and he was the first to take out a Na ring. He sent it to Xiao Chen with a cautious expression. The chiefs of the other major tribes also knew how to use their discretion at this moment, and immediately gave up all their wealth. Xiao Chen's eyes lit up slightly when he saw this, and he glanced at Kayan appreciatively. Originally, he had no intention of asking for the wealth of these people, but since Kayan has warned them, he will take advantage of the situation and accept these resources. Several senior leaders of the snake tribe. No matter how poor the resources of the snake people are, Mulin and others are still very poor. But each person's net worth should be able to redeem more than 10 or 200,000 points. This wave helped Mulin and others improve their bloodline talents. Although he didn't earn many points, he wouldn't suffer a loss. Come here and relax. After putting away the few rings, Xiao Chen waved to Mulin. When the other party walked up to him, Xiao Chen burst out the cultivation concentration runes and touched the other party's chest. Next moment, after spending 198,000 points, Xiao Chen repaired Mulin's old injuries and hidden diseases. It also raises the snake man blood in the opponent's body to the level of saint level supreme grade. Along with the repair of old wounds and hidden illnesses, there is also the transformation of the snake man's bloodline. Mulin had stayed in the 9th level of heaven and man for many years, and at this moment he also broke the barrier of cultivation. A more powerful cultivation aura swept through the hall like a storm. Ha ha ha, it's been more than 300 years. I didn't expect that I could break through to the saint realm when I was old and dying. Feeling the changes in cultivation and blood within his body, Mulin couldn't help laughing wildly, and then bowed down to Xiao Chen. Your Majesty, after I have passed the thunder tribulation, I will come back to thank you for your kindness. After saying that, Mulin transformed into a stream of light and immediately rushed out of the hall. The chiefs of the other major tribes were all trembling with excitement when they saw what was happening in front of them. Although it is somewhat difficult to understand at this time how the king did it. But no matter what, Xiao Chen is willing to help them, which is a great blessing. And Xiao Chen ignored the shock of several people. In the next half-quarter of an hour, Xiao Chen followed the same pattern and helped several people improve. After doing all this, Xiao Chen went to the snake tribe's sacrificial square again and upgraded the snake statue from heavenly rank supreme grade to saint level supreme grade. Just colorful smoke and butterflies. Next, energy is injected into it, and Mulin and others are stationed in the royal city. The snake people will no longer be able to be slaughtered by the Saint Realm strongmen at will like before. 46%. Chapter 220 Young Master, I want to call you Master again. Sir, it's so nice to meet you. Seeing the snake man statue in front of her exuding more powerful pressure than before, Kyan couldn't help but feel a little emotional at this moment. The snake tribe was originally just a small, downtrodden tribe. Under the oppression of the two dynasties, they had to huddle in the desert. But now, the snake tribe not only gave birth to a strong Saint Realm man, but they can also walk out of this desert in the future. The goals that Queen Medusa had striven for in the past generations were easily achieved in her generation. Such an unreal experience made Kyan feel very sad. We are all a family, so there is no need to be so polite. Xiao Chen smiled lightly when he heard this. Marshal Dao's journey is boring. If he can lead his women to improve together, he can help them solve any worries behind them. Isn't this a kind of fun? These are the resources that the snake people have accumulated over the years. Although they are not as good as the apex level forces like Zhenin Palace, they are all the resources that the snake people can use. After hearing Xiao Chen's words, Kyan smiled and took out a ring. Well, I have accepted these resources for the time being. After I classify them and process them, I will return some resources to you so that you can use them to cultivate your tribe. Xiao Chen was slightly startled when he heard this, then took the ring with a faint smile. Now that his point balance exceeds 10 million, his demand for resources is not very large for the time being. As for the snake tribe, a tribe led by Kyan, if all resources are dedicated to him, the subsequent cultivation of the tribe will definitely be a problem. Therefore, he can accept this batch of resources, but he cannot take them all. If not, it seems a bit greedy. Sir, I want to call you Master again. After hearing what Xiao Chen said, Kyan was slightly startled, with a touch of emotion on her face. Immediately afterwards, when she felt some excitement in her heart, Kyan suddenly came close to Xiao Chen's ear and said with a hint of temptation in her voice. Owner, this title. Only when Xiao Chen spurred her, she couldn't help shouting. When she said this sentence at this time, she was undoubtedly expressing a meaning. She, Queen Medusa, wants to fight. Well. Hearing Kai Yan's suggestive words, Xiao Chen glanced at the others around him, coughed dryly and said in a low voice. We'll talk about this later. Your sister is still nearby. If she hears it, the impact will not be good. What's wrong? Kyan rolled her eyes when she heard this, and then glanced at Dai who was not far away, chatting with Marong Qingshe and others. The corners of his mouth curved slightly, and his voice was like a devil's whisper, and he continued seductively. The big deal. How about letting her come with me and call you Master? I don't believe it, young Master. I haven't had any fantasies in my heart these past 2 days. Being exposed by Kyan on the spot, Xiao Chen looked a little embarrassed at this moment, and then gritted his teeth and warned Kyan. Woman, don't play with fire. Young Master, I have a strong inner fire right now. If someone doesn't help the Queen to channel it, I'm afraid it will affect the young Master's rest. Why don't you help me calm down my anger while you have time now? Let me call you Master again. Affectionate words. With a sense of charm, it kept reaching Xiao Chen's ears, making Xiao Chen furious. Unimaginable. This would be what Queen Medusa of the snake people could say. If old guys like Mu Lin heard this, their jaws would drop in shock. It's unbearable. You are a woman who has repeatedly provoked this young master. Do you really think that this young master does not dare to do anything to you? Being provoked by Kyan like this, Xiao Chen couldn't bear it and exploded at this moment. It's a clay figure who still has some anger, not to mention he's a man. How dare you provoke him like this? Next, if he didn't deal with it severely and make the other party kneel down and call daddy, he would be in vain as a leader. When the words fell, Xiao Chen angrily grabbed Kyan's wrist and dragged her into a hall roughly. This made Kyan couldn't help but exclaim, but there was no trace of panic on her face, instead she showed a touch of joy and expectation. A man who is filled with rage is the fiercest and most powerful. Next, let the storm come more violently. While I was sitting in the hall, I remembered the story with Sister Lu Shen, and looked at the photos taken by Medusa a few days ago. I felt a little messy and wanted to go out and relax. And other people around. Seeing Xiao Chen getting angry for no apparent reason, he dragged Kyan directly into the hall. The group of people looked at each other a little bit. Marong Qingshe, Bai Suxin and others couldn't help but sigh. They are still too docile. It seems that he has to be a little more rebellious next time and try to completely anger Xiao Chen so that he can fully bear the other party's anger. So, they might be better off. The chiefs of several major tribes saw Xiao Chen being so rude. Each one of them just coughed dryly and pretended not to have seen the situation. This is a private matter between the queen and the king. If they dare to talk about it, they might be kicked away by the other party. What's going on? Dai was chatting animatedly with Murong Qingshe and others, and when he began to yearn for life outside the snake tribe, he suddenly saw his sister being forcibly taken away by Xiao Chen. This made a look of astonishment appear on her face. Don't worry about them. The two of them were just quarreling. They will just have a fight later. Hearing Dai Dai's cute question, Murong Qingshui's face turned slightly red and she answered vaguely. Arguing. Fighting. Dai was stunned again when he heard this. Isn't the relationship between sister and brother-in-law very good? Why are they suddenly quarreling and fighting? No, I have to stop them. Didn't think much about it. Dai wanted to rush in and stop her, telling her sister and brother-in-law that they should love each other and be a family. However, before she could rush out, she was held back by Xiao Meier. You silly girl. Qingshe girl said they were quarreling and fighting. Do you think they were really quarreling and fighting? That fight was no ordinary fight. We, the people, couldn't stop it. Even if you are Sister Kaien's biological sister, if you disturb them in doing good things in the past, the consequences will be serious. Hearing Xiao Meier's words, Dai immediately covered his mouth as if he thought of something. But in the next moment, the soul thought couldn't help but spread over, but another more powerful soul thought directly placed a restriction on the main hall. Completely cutting off Dai's prying eyes, her pupils widened again. Sure enough. Bah, quarreling and fighting to do something good is not just a matter of men and women living side by side. How could he be so unscrupulous in broad daylight, without caring about their feelings? Your expression is so strange. Could it be that you also like brother Xiao Chen, but feel a little unbalanced in your heart? Seeing the shocked and weird expression on Dai's face, Xiao Meier couldn't help but make a joke. Although he and Dai have not known each other for a long time, his simple and gentle personality makes him more approachable than Kaien. They all like it very much and won't feel nervous. So even if they knew Dai was a strong person who entered Saint Realm, a few people could still make some jokes at this time. Not at all. Dai's face turned slightly red when he heard this, and then he said with a guilty conscience. I suddenly remembered that I still had some things to deal with, so I left for a while. Finished. Before Xiao Meier and others could say anything, Dai distorted the space and disappeared in place, leaving Xiao Meier and others stunned. This girl. Is she guilty? After being stunned for a moment, Xiao Meier said depressedly. However, a few people didn't pay attention. After chatting for a while, they returned to the palace to rest. For a while, they returned to the palace to rest. For a while, they returned to